Welcome to another Vixa Vaughn romance audiobook. We're excited to have you join us. Whether you're into second chance romance, enemies to lovers, fake marriage, or any other trope, Vixa Vaughn offers you the chance to escape into stories that will carry you away into heart-pounding romance and gripping characters. While we want to get you the full experience, some parts of this audiobook are abridged to stay abreast of YouTube's community guidelines. If you want the full experience, you can always head to Vixa Vaughn Romance and use code VIXA40 to get the unabridged version of this audiobook for 40% off. Now sit back and enjoy the show.
Chapter 1. Ziva. The crisp touch of the Texas dawn mists against my bare espresso skin. I roll over and steal a peek at my alarm clock. 10 a.m., I should already be in the barn by now. The hay's not going to bail itself. I throw on a ratty pair of jeans, a yellow t-shirt, and hustle down the stairs. Nana is giving Jeremiah his breakfast at the long dining room table. Well, look who decided to get out of bed. Nana chimes. Good morning, sunshine. Her tone is pleasant, but there's a fair amount of side-eye to go with it. There's a plate with your name on it in the kitchen. Thanks, Nan. I lean over and kiss her on the cheek, then jog into the kitchen. On their table, just like she promised, is a floral blue plate. In the center are two of Nana's homemade apple fritter flapjacks with her champagne blueberry sauce. They're already cooling, so I scarf them down and go over the to-do list for the day. So what are you two troublemakers going to get up to? Nana asks with a teasing smile. It looks like we have a lot on the agenda. The horses need to be groomed, and I ought to take Jeremiah down to the store to get some notebooks for school. He's been anxious over starting in a few weeks, and the little jerk has proven very adept at wriggling out of all the prep work. Jeremiah, I call out to him, go to the stables and I will be there in a second. He grunts out his dissatisfaction, and I hear the screen door bang shut behind him. Licking the last bit of sauce off my thumb, I put my plate in the sink and turn to thank Nana for doing the dishes. When I meet her eyes, she's got on her scolding face. You know, he needs time to be a kid. Here we go again. Nan, I know, but he's also becoming a teenager. He needs to learn some responsibility. She shoots me her "don't give me that" look. I've been dodging it since I was a kid. You know your grandfather would be proud of you, right? She takes my hand, and an odd lump lodges in my throat. She never talks about Pop these days. There's a second where she looks like she's going to say more, but opts for, well, I'm going to get my shower in. It's been almost a year since Pop died. Nana always says that the sun doesn't shine as bright as when he was alive. It seems just as hot to me, but I know what she means. Some folks might call him the heart and soul of this farm, but he was really more like the spine. It's been a hard scramble to keep the place in shape. As I step out onto the porch, I see Jeremiah tugging open the barn door. The last year has been a big one for him, too. He's changed from a little boy with a lot of spunk to a quiet and relatively respectful young man. Every day I'm grateful to see that he's not turning out like his bastard of a father. When I first met Jeremiah's father, he was a wild, unpredictable crap kicker with a reputation for fighting. Silly girl that I was, that kind of thing seemed exciting. Unfortunately, I came to know better. And I still go through times where I worry that Jeremiah might succumb to his father's rebellious genes. Or worse, turn into a rambler. Our son was only 2 years old when I came home to an empty apartment. The only thing left was a small kitchen table with a note on it that read, I'm tired of pretending. I'm sorry, but I love her, not you. If that's not a kick in the stomach, I don't know what is. Maybe if he'd had the baby with her, he'd still be with me. For the last 10 years, I have grown to resent myself. I've let myself believe that he was the victim of a wife who tried a little too hard to be perfect. I had been so busy trying to fill the cracks that I couldn't see that I was stopping up all the air. But since Pop Pop went down, I've come to grips with the fact that it wasn't just me. My husband was a son of a gun, and I let him walk all over me. It's funny how your perspective can shift overnight, but I'm not buying into the old narrative anymore. There's too much other stuff to do, and I don't have the energy to dwell on the past. With that in mind, I step off the porch and launch myself into the day. The trouble with getting started after 10 is that the heat of the day is already settling in, and this one looks like it's going to be a scorcher. Oh well. That's the price to be paid for another couple hours of glorious sleep. Some things are worth it. When I trot up to the gate, Jeremiah is there to meet me with a wheelbarrow in his hands. He's already worked up a sweat, and I can't help but smile at the man my son is growing up to be. The kid knows the value of hard work. That, or he wants something and is trying to impress me. While he busies himself mucking out the stalls, I clean the main aisle between the stables. As I pass each cross tie, I give it a looking over to ensure nothing is frayed or loose. Once that's done, I give the saddles and reins a good dusting. They'll need a bit of oiling, but that'll have to wait for another time. Can we go riding today? Jeremiah tosses over his shoulder. I look around at the work we've managed to knock out so far and give him a nod. Yeah, but let's go back to the house first. It's funny how working makes the day just slip by. I'll bet you Nana has a lunch laid out for us. If we had been at the far end of the property, it would have taken nearly 45 minutes to walk back. That's not lost on me as we make our easy stroll over from the barn. Kicking off our boots, I see the table already set. Nana. I walk into the kitchen to see her leaning against the counter with her head down. She's bracing her arms on the edge of the sink and shaking slightly. Without even getting close to her, I can see that she's crying. Nana, what's... Hey, Ziva. The voice shoots up my backbone, and all the hair on my arm stands up. Coming fully into the kitchen, I see Allan Lanson leaning against the doorframe. What do you want? I snap. He puts his hands up and peels out a stupid grin. Is that any way to talk to company? Too bad for him. I'm in no mood to be polite. If it wasn't for my son coming up behind me, I would walk over there and slap Smug's smile right off his face. Just tell me what the hell you want and get out. The way I see it, you got two options. Either you can marry me, or I'll come back with the title company and take everything on this farm. He's smiling, but his eyes glimmer with hostility. Then I'll really show that boy of yours what it means to work his butt off. My son is none of your damn business, I hiss. I've told you no before, and I guess you're either deaf or too dumb to take the hint. Let me spell it out for you. N-O. Now get the hell out of my house. He shrugs and steps back out through the kitchen door. As he struts back over to his pickup, Allan looks over his shoulder at me. Ziva, you're going to find out just how much your life is my business. The kid, the farm, the whole damn thing. I slam the door behind him, then scoop Nana into my arms as we hear him fire up the engine. Nana, it's all right. It's all just talk. He can't take anything from us. That's not true, she whispers, barely audible. She holds up a piece of paper balled up in her fist. I take it and take a good look. What does it say, Mom? Jeremiah hovers at the door to the dining room, looking entirely stuck in the limbo between boy and man. Risk of foreclosure. Please pay $250,000 to the town hall by October 31st, 2018. Further down the page, I see Allan's signature with a place for the mayor's signature and a spot for mine. We'll figure it out, Nana. I say, rubbing her back, calm as I'm trying to stay. My mind is racing. Baby, I wish it was that simple. We don't have money. I'd be lucky to scrape together 10% of that. The money from your Pop-Pop's insurance policy is all gone. We don't have any other option. This is it. I'll be damned if I let that prick end up with this place, I say. And I'll be double damned if I'll marry him. The day grinds on, and I go through the motions of keeping the place running. My body is moving, but my mind is stuck on the bigger problem. After the house is quiet that night, I pull up the survey records from our property online. At the far end is an acre or two of empty plot land that belongs to us. That has to be worth something. One thing is clear. Saving this place is going to take more than just Jeremiah and I. Money may be tight, but putting a little out could bring a whole lot more back in. With that in mind, I head out in the farm truck with a painted sign to hang out by the road. It may not look like much, but with any luck, it'll pull someone in. I stand back and look at my handiwork in the glow of my headlights. Help wanted? Ain't that the goddamn truth?
Chapter 2. Daniel. I ease the creaky old pickup into the gas station and cast an eye on the attached diner. It seems like the kind of place that is run down on the outside, but dishes up a mean cherry pie. I slip into a bay and slide the nozzle into the gas tank. It's been a long day in the saddle already. My stomach growls at me, but I don't want to stop into the diner. Maybe I could just get a few snacks to munch on and head down the road. When my tank is loaded up, I head into the store and get an armload of chips, candy bars, and a huge coffee. The lady behind the counter eyes me up and smacks her gum like a pro. "Hon, you don't want to leave here without getting one of those cinnamon buns from the bakery counter. Miss Susie whips up the baked goods there every day, and they are to die for." I'll have to get one then. Can't turn something like that down. I smile at her and get 2 cinnamon buns, loaded with sticky cream cheese frosting. Also, I need to pay for Pump 9. "Sure thing, hun." She taps her long acrylic nails on the register keys as I stare off into space. When she coughs up my change, I head over to a battered old bulletin board covered in flyers, mostly junk for sale. "Is there much work around here?" I call over to my gum-smacking friend. "It's mostly farmhand positions right now," she says. "I think that Ziva has a listing up there. If you're looking for work, I'd head over to her. She could really use the help, and there'll be plenty for you to do." I scan the flyers until I find the one she's talking about, and tear away one of the little slips. "Thanks a lot. I'll take the tip." I shoot her a nod and a wave. "Oh, sure thing, hon. Hope to see you around. If you get the job, you have to come back and try Miss Susie's cherry pie over at the diner. Won't find a better one in the whole world." She winks at me as the bell on the door jingles, and I head back to my truck. I look back at the diner and hesitate for a second. I'm damn sure tempted to head inside, but I should just be content with my chocolate for now. If I don't get the job, I can come back and have some real food before I leave town. I tap my fingers on the wheel to the song playing on the radio. It's one of those old rock songs that I probably haven't heard in a decade. I'd forgotten how good it was. Both sides of the road are lined with seemingly never-ending fields of grazing cattle and nodding heads of wheat. A bright green sign catches my eye. The turnoff for the ranch is coming up soon. I've been pushing the gas on this trip, not wanting to stop driving for anything until absolutely necessary. With any luck, my last pit stop will actually turn up something that can put me on my feet. Since I left the military, my life has felt pretty aimless. I've just been doing odd jobs to get by and floating around from place to place. But looking around, something about this spot seems different. It's a bit worn down, but wholesome and steady. If I'm not careful, it could wind up looking a lot like home. When I got hurt, my whole world got a serious shake-up, and I haven't been sure how to rebuild it. I always imagined that I would work in the military until I retired or died. Suddenly, everything has turned upside down. I haven't been able to picture what kind of life I should have now. Being a soldier was all I ever wanted, so it's hard to sort the rest out. This ranch job seems promising, though. The peace and quiet will be a good change of pace. I ought to have time to get my head straight, maybe even pick up some new skills. A lot of my family is made up of ranchers and farmers. Some of my best memories are being a kid and playing in the creek and riding the horses at my uncle's place. I used to go there every summer, and I can still remember the peach jam my aunt made from the fruit in their orchard. That and some fresh baked bread always did the trick. Things seem so simple when you're just a little kid and don't have to think about the future. That feeling is probably what brought me back down south, looking for that old comfort to steady myself. Reminiscing has me so wrapped up, I almost miss my turn and have to bank a hard turn to hit the road. The fields get a bit boggier and the fences look a bit more run down than the other plots close by. After bumping along for a bit, I finally catch sight of the barn and the house. Yeah, there's going to be plenty of work, all right. From the look of things, I hope I'm up to the challenge. Looking from the sagging barn roof to the overgrown fields, I can't help thinking that the lady at the gas station was right. This Ziva woman needs all the help she can get.
Chapter 3. Ziva. Hey, girl, I say, scooping grain into the large silver bucket at my feet. My favorite Arabian nudges my arm with her nose, exhaling with force onto my bare skin. She lowers her head and sniffs at the bucket, exploring the contents, and then looks at me with big, soulful eyes. Don't give me that look, Diva. I smooth my hand down the coat of her long, light gray neck, fringed with a black mane. We don't have much food right now, but you can graze in the pasture later. She makes a rumbling sound in her throat, returning her head to the bucket to eat her rations. Things will get better, promise, I add, a pang of guilt hitting me in the stomach. Diva crunches in response, grinding the grains against huge flat teeth. I move on to the next stall, but can hear an engine coming down the road. I walk out just as an old red pickup pulls up in front of the barn, driven by a man I don't recognize. Hi, I'm here to see the owner, he says, climbing out of the truck. I have to shield my eyes. As the Texas sun blares down upon us, you're looking at her. Oh, he says, rummaging in his back pocket. Great, well, I'm here about a job. He moves toward me and produces one of the flyers I put up around town. As he comes into focus, I need to catch my breath. He isn't what I'm expecting at all. Young, too, about my age. He holds out a muscular arm, lightly covered in blonde hair. I'm Daniel. I take his hand, gripping it firmly in my own. Ziva. He smiles and nods as our hands fall apart. Good, strong handshake. At this distance, he towers over me. Thanks, I say, taking a step back to regain some composure. So, what kind of experience do you have? I gesture toward the flyer he still holds in his hand, and he looks down before he answers. In terms of farming, not a lot. I just got out of the military, had an injury. He seems guarded as he speaks, pushing a rock around with his shoe. His lack of experience isn't ideal, but by the looks of the broad shoulders filling out his shirt, I don't think he'll have any issues hauling a hay bale. How are you with tools? I'm pretty handy, he says, though doesn't elaborate. What kind of stuff do you need doing? Everything, I think to myself as I look around dismally. Keeping up the ranch is impossible to do on my own. I look at the stall that holds Diva, the slats on the sides breaking off. The place is falling apart. Look, I'll be honest with you. I need a lot of help. As the words come out of my mouth, I cringe. I hate admitting that. I've been trying to keep the place running on my own since my grandfather died. I'm sorry to hear that, he says, his hazel eyes softening. That must be tough. I clear my throat, not used to much coddling. I've been managing, but I'm realizing if I want the ranch to keep going, I can't do it on my own, not with my grandma and son to look after as well. It feels strange to speak so freely to a perfect stranger, but something about Daniel makes me feel comfortable. You have a son? How old? 12. His name's Jeremiah, I reply, looking around at the horses he loves so much. I really need this to work. I need someone who knows what they are doing. Do you have any experience with horses? Daniel shuffles uncomfortably, placing his hands in his pockets. Not really, sorry. My heart sinks a little at this. I haven't had much interest in the job so far, but is it wise to take on someone who knows nothing about working on a ranch? I know I don't come with the best resume, but I work really hard, he says, as though reading my mind. I'm strong, I'm honest, and I'll help you with whatever you need. His enthusiasm takes me by surprise, and I squint against the sun to read his face. What made you come to this town? You don't seem like a local? He inhales deeply, his well-built chest rising underneath his shirt. I guess I'm looking for a change of scenery, trying to figure out where I belong now. He looks around at the property and then back to meet my eyes. Maybe sometime in the country is just what I'm looking for. It sure is beautiful here. The way he looks at me gives me a strange feeling in my stomach. He isn't drop-dead gorgeous, but there is something about him. I'm going to need someone to help me with the horses, fix some of the things that need fixing, put up new fences, that sort of thing. He nods as I list tasks. We start at dawn to get a jump on the day, usually working through to sundown. But you'll always be rewarded with Grandma's famous cooking at the end of the day. I take a step toward him, placing my hands on my hips. Think you'd be up for that? He smiles before answering. It's been forever since I've had a home-cooked meal. The way his mouth curls transforms his whole face. I can't quite get a good reading, but something tells me I can take a chance on him. I hold out my arm for our second handshake. Welcome to the ranch.
Chapter 4. Daniel. So far, the ranch seems like it's not only going to be a good fit, but that it's exactly what I need right now. Being discharged from the military after my injury was an upheaval in my whole life's plan, and a small little place like this is just the thing to help me find purpose again. Ever since I've been out of the military, I haven't really figured out what I want to do with my life anymore. I had planned on retiring with the forces after a long career, and now suddenly, I'm thrown into having to start over again. So, suffice to say, I think this little farm will give me the time and space to figure out exactly what my next move is. The fact that the woman who owns the farm is gorgeous certainly doesn't hurt either. I like her so far, what little I know of her anyway, but not just because she's a knockout. She's hard-working and independent, and there's just something in her eyes that I feel drawn to, like I was meant to stumble upon her farm. I know how ridiculous that sounds, but hey, what can you do? It is what it is, and stranger things have happened, I'm sure. After agreeing to give it a shot, I'm told that I can bring my things into the spare room and unpack. When I get inside, I can't help but smirk to myself. It's small, tiny really, but it's cozy and has that sort of warm, at-home feel to it. It's clean and well-kept, which is more than I can say for some of the beds I'd slept in with the military, so I'm certainly not going to complain. Just as I start to unpack and get my clothes into the dresser, I hear a small knock at the door and turn around. I'm met with a warm smile from an older lady, and I smile back. "Hi there. You must be the new farmhand I've heard about. I'm Grandma." She smiles in a way that stretches all the way up to the crinkles around her eyes, and I smile brightly back at her, nodding as I walk over and give her my hand. "Well, Grandma, it's nice to meet you. I'm Daniel." She shakes my hand gently and then nods, chuckling as she turns to go already. "Well, I just wanted to put a face to the name. You better not be late for dinner." "I promise I won't." She nods and then heads back down the hallway, and I'm left feeling more welcomed and more at ease at a job than I ever have in my life. I've only been here a few minutes, and it already feels like a home. It's an odd feeling for sure, but definitely not an unwelcome one. It doesn't take me long to unpack what few things I have, so when I'm done, I leave the room and head back outside to try and find Ziva. I figure that maybe she can show me around and tell me what needs doing first. Before I can get far, though, I'm met with a young boy who I assume is Jeremiah. He walks over. "Are you Daniel?" He asks me curiously, tilting his head. I nod back, smiling. That's me. You must be Jeremiah, Ziva's little guy. He bristles a bit and nods, gesturing towards the back part of the field. I'm Ziva's son, yeah, but not so much a little guy. Thanks. Oh, great. The first time I meet her son, and I've already put my foot in my mouth. I didn't mean to offend him, and I open my mouth to say it, but then I see him smirking back at me, and I chuckle, nodding. All right. So he's a kid, but he's definitely wise beyond his years with a sense of humor I can get behind. Fair enough. I was looking for your mom, actually. She's busy right now. He says it matter-of-factly and then starts to walk, gesturing for me to follow like he's some grown man who's been working the farm for years. I follow, of course, chuckling. You can talk to her later, but for now I can show you what needs doing. One of the fences along the back pasture needs patching, so we can work on that until dinner. It shouldn't take us much longer than that, and if it does, then you're not suited for work here. I guess we can call this your test. He shrugs with a snicker, and I can't help but laugh, shaking my head as I follow the very serious young man with a pointed sense of humor. For a kid, his age, he's definitely a bit more grown up than I thought he'd be, but I like him. He's clearly a hard worker, and he takes pride in his mom's farm. That, and he certainly isn't afraid to joke around. So we get to work fixing the fence, and before long we've moved from awkward small talk to joking around and chatting comfortably. Fixing the fence does indeed take us right up until dinner time to finish, but not a moment longer. After we're finished, we head inside for dinner, and I have to say that I don't think I'd had a meal taste that good in years. Not only was I starved from working all afternoon, but a home-cooked meal is something that I didn't realize I was missing until I had it. We finish up and clear the table. Then I head back to have a shower before I make my way back to my room. The hot water feels amazing and soothes all the tiny aches I have from working in the field. And by the time I made it back to my room, my eyes feel heavy and lazy. So, I toss my towel over a chair and flop down onto my bed, falling asleep almost immediately after my head hit the pillow. I'm not sure if it's because I'm tired from working all day in the field or if it's because this place has such a homey feel to it, but the rest I have is the best I've had in years.
Chapter 5. Ziva. I've got say, mucking out stalls and shoveling crap is a lot less, crappy when you've got someone helping you and keeping you company. And when that someone is as handsome and hardworking as Daniel is, it makes the task almost enjoyable. Almost. God, Daniel gasps as he tosses another load into the pile. How on earth were you doing this all by yourself? This is a lot of crap, literally. I chuckle softly and raise my brows, shrugging as I clear some more out of the stalls and pile it into the wheelbarrow. It's true, it is a lot. And to be honest, had I not gotten some help soon, I likely would have fallen behind from being overworked and exhausted. I didn't really have a choice, so I just did what I had to do. I'm glad to have the help now, though. I give him a warm smile, and I'm about to ask him some more about himself, but I stop. A shadow cast in the doorway, making me frown as I roll my eyes. Standing there in the doorway to dampen my day is Allan, and he looks like he's in the mood to start something. Not that he isn't always starting something, but today he looks particularly nasty. Hey, Ziva, you're looking nice all bent over like that, working hard. Part of me wants to simply ignore him. Another part of me wants to clock him in the jaw. The sensible part of me knows that neither of those options will do anything but make the situation worse, though. So I sigh as I stand up straight and rest my hands on the handle of my shovel. I stare back at him blankly and shrug, making it abundantly clear that I don't have time for his nonsense today, which I literally don't. I have 1,000 chores that need to be done. What do you want, Allan? I catch a glimpse of Daniel narrowing his eyes at the man, and then I turn back to Allan, brows raised in question, waiting for him to answer me. Not that I particularly want to hear what he has to say, but I figure I might as well get it over with. Oh, you know what I want. he says with a smirk, getting closer. You don't need to play coy with me. In fact, I'd prefer it if you didn't. It would make this entire process easier. Oh, really? And exactly what process is that? He rolls his eyes and lets out a frustrated huff, arms crossed over his chest as he stares back at me, almost in disbelief. Does he really think that after continually harassing me, I'll just give in? Idiot. Come on, Ziva. You and I both know what I want. You want your farm to be successful and managed well, and I want the land that comes with it. He shrugs, chuckling as he looks me up and down, making my skin crawl. Creep. All you have to do is marry me, and we both get what we want. I scoff and laugh him off, going back to digging out the stall I'm working on. You're delusional, Allan. If you think I'm going to marry you, and for the record, I add with a tiny scowl, marrying you is definitely not on the list of things that I want. That makes him angry, and I can practically see steam coming out of his ears, the temple in his forehead throbbing as he glares back at me. Oh, really? And how do you expect to keep your farm going then, huh? You can't keep it running all on your own. Eventually, you're going to need someone else. He's not wrong, really. Eventually, I won't be able to keep things running on my own, and I will need someone else. But I'll be damned if that someone else is Allan. He's a scumbag and a creep, and he's the very last person I'd even want near me on a regular basis, let alone to be my husband or help me run the ranch. So, in a last-ditch and desperate effort to make him leave me alone, an idea springs into my head. You're right, I say with a sigh, and then I nod towards Daniel. Which is why I have him. Allan, this is Daniel, my fiancé. Allan's eyes go wide with shock and he scoffs, looking over at Daniel and then back to me, disbelief and fury written all over his face. He's actually speechless for a moment, which is amusing because I don't think I've ever been able to get him to shut up when I want him to. As he's processing what I said, I sneak a quick glance over at Daniel, who was looking at me like I'm crazy, brows raised, and his lips parted in surprise. He recovers quickly enough, though, and seems to go along with my plan, leaning his shovel against the stall as he steps forward and offers his hand to Allan to shake. I let out a quiet breath of relief that I didn't realize I was even holding, thankful that he's going along with it for now. Fiancé? Allan asks incredulously, reluctantly shaking Daniel's hand. And why the hell haven't I heard about him before? My private life isn't any of your business, Allan. I snap back at him, shaking my head as I dig out more dirtied straw. I don't owe you an explanation for anything I do with my life. Daniel just stays quiet, and after a moment, Allan scoffs and shakes his head, glaring back at me as he stalks out of the barn. I don't know what you're trying to pull, Ziva, but this isn't the last you'll see of me. I promise you that. I just hope you're ready for what's next. And with that, he storms out of the barn, leaving me standing there with Daniel as he looks at me in both confusion and annoyance, neither of which I can blame him for. I just hope that, for my sake and the sake of the farm, that I haven't just lost the one shot I have at saving it.
Chapter 6. Daniel. What just happened? 1 minute I'm shoveling crap and shooting the crap with Ziva, and the next minute I'm suddenly her fiancé? I know that it's a hot sunny day, and I'm likely a bit tired from working, but I know I'm not delirious. So, I wait for this Allan fellow to make his exit, and then I turn to Ziva with raised brows and a shocked laugh, dropping my shovel. So I'm your fiancé? She drags her hand down her face with a sigh, and I can see that she's troubled. And while I sympathize with the woman because she's obviously being harassed, I also don't appreciate being thrown into something like that. Look, I know I only skimmed over the help wanted ads, and I know we didn't discuss too many details when you agreed to give me this job, but I'm almost 100% positive that marrying you wasn't part of the included duties. No offense. I chuckle nervously and she smiles back at me, looking embarrassed as she shakes her head and sets her shovel down. I know. Look, I know it's messed up, but can I explain? Oh, I say with a smirk, please do. She gives me a playful glare and then sits down on a bale of hay, and I do the same on a bale across from her. She takes a deep breath and then looks me in the eye. I lean forward with my elbows on my knees, brow cocked in anticipation of whatever it is she's going to say. Okay, so obviously you know his name is Allan. Well, he owns the land next to us, the property that's adjoined. He wants my land too, and he's wanted it for years. If he were to get a hold of it, he'd more than double his profit margin, and he'd be swimming in cash. So lately he's been trying to convince me to marry him. And by convince, I mean he harasses me day and night in hopes that I'll relent and say yes. Isn't that romantic? She laughs then and actually smiles. A smile that almost lights up her whole face, despite the fact that she's clearly stressed. I smile back, nodding. All right, that makes sense. But why is he so deadest on marrying you for it? And why all of a sudden? What's changed? Her smile disappears then, and she sighs, picking up a handful of straw and picking at it, tossing each piece aside as she speaks. Well, with my grandfather passing away recently, the ranch has been particularly vulnerable. Not only did we lose a set of hands, but the deed transferred to me and, well, I can't do it alone. Allan knows that, and so that's why he's been such a jerk about it. I shake my head in disbelief and sit up, looking over at her with sympathy. It makes a lot more sense now, though. I still can't really figure out how he figures he's going to convince her with an attitude like that. So he just started harassing you? Did he at least try to woo you first? Woo me? She looks at me with wide eyes for a split second before she bursts out laughing, shaking her head with a grin as she tries to catch her breath. I'm not sure what she's laughing at, or what I said that was so outlandish, but I can't help but laugh right along with her. And she's beautiful like that, all smiles and joy. It disappears quickly, though, and she shakes her head, though she still has a hint of a smile, the corner of her lips upturned. Oh, Daniel, you're funny. Not only have I never heard anyone besides characters in period piece novels use the term woo, but because you think that Allan has enough of a heart to consider anyone's feelings but his own. Fair enough, I say with a chuckle. But why is he acting like such a jerk? If a marriage is going to work, you'd think he'd want to at least make you like him. Well, to be honest with you, Daniel, I don't think he intends on making the marriage work at all. Not that there will be one, of course, but my point still stands. I'm fairly certain that he just wants to wear me down to the point of saying yes, stay married long enough for everything to be legal, and then divorce me. He'd still end up with pretty much everything and get what he wants without having to fuss too much. I take a deep breath as I take it all in, and as outlandish as it seems, it does make sense in a sick and twisted way. So, to sort of send him running and keep him at bay, you told him you were engaged, and I was the closest person you could offer as evidence of that. She gives me a nervous smile and nods and then leans forward, eyes pleading as she speaks. Her tone is strong, and I don't think she's the kind of woman who would ever beg, but I can tell that she's in between a rock and a hard place, and doesn't have many options left, or any left, for that matter. Daniel, I know it's crazy, and Lord knows you don't owe me anything or need to go to bat for me. But it would make my life a hell of a lot easier if you just went along with this. Just for now, at least until I get the ranch up and running properly. I know it's asking a lot, and I know I have no right to, believe me. But I'm stuck. You'd be literally saving my ranch and me. How am I supposed to say no to that? I easily could, and any sane person would and should. But there's just something about Ziva that makes me want to wholeheartedly say yes. I hate lying, but I guess if it's for a good cause. All right, I'll do it. Not 1 second after I agree, does she whoop and grin ear to ear, breathing a sigh of relief as she reaches over and squeezes my hand. I'll do it, I assure her firmly. But the only time we touch or act like a couple is around other people, okay? Of course. Thank you so much, Daniel, truly. You're saving my butt here. I smirk and we get back to cleaning out the stalls, and my mind starts to go a mile a minute. Did I really just agree to this? I'm not sure what I've just gotten myself into, but it better be worth it.
Chapter 7. Ziva. This has to be the dumbest plan I've ever come up with, I say to Smokey. He lets out a neigh in response. What was I thinking? Allan will find out that I am lying to him, and I'll scare Daniel away. I can't afford to lose him. We desperately need his help. Nah, Smokey interjects again as he shakes his long black mane. Oh, great. Now my only confidant is a horse. You won't tell anyone, right, Smokey? He agrees with a whip of his head, and I continue brushing the dirt from his back. As I rummage through Smokey's assortment of brushes, I think about the last date I went on. Could it have been Jeremiah's father? Now I'm starting to feel sorry for myself. Things at the ranch have been busy, but how have I let 12 years go by without going on a date? Smokey, if you were a man, you'd date me, right? I ask jokingly. I pick up the curry comb and start brushing the other side of Smokey. What have I been doing for the past 12 years? Taking care of Jeremiah has been my top priority since he was born. Since his father left, I've had to do the job of 2 parents, not to mention the work on the ranch he left behind. And since Grandpa passed, there hasn't been any spare time. Wiping the sweat from my forehead, I take a seat on a nearby bench. Maybe it's the heat getting to my head, but I'm suddenly having trouble remembering the last time I did anything outside of raising Jeremiah or working on the ranch. Finishing off Smokey's bath with a pat down his mane, I pack up his grooming tools and head over to the barn. Through the window, I see Daniel working on the wiring of one of the chicken coops. He stands back to admire his work. Suddenly, feeling lightheaded, I feel my chest tighten as I see the sun glisten off the sweat dripping down his biceps. He turns around and I duck quickly under the window. Scared that he caught me staring at him, I take a minute to catch my breath. Having a man around definitely had its perks. Smiling to myself, I get up and dust off the back of my jeans. Realizing what time it is, I head towards the house and find Grandma in the kitchen, putting together some sandwiches. I need to tell you something, Grandma, I say as I take a seat at the table behind her. And I don't think you're going to like it. Come on, Ziva, she says. You can tell me anything, but you are going to have to tell me while we eat. There is too much work to do today. She places a turkey sandwich with sliced pickles down in front of me. Jeremiah, Grandma calls out. Oh no, Grandma, I say frantically. I needed to talk to you in private before Jeremiah came in. I wasn't quite ready to tell him his mom is a liar and has a fake fiancé that she has known for only a few days. Why can't I hear? Jeremiah says as he walks through the door. Crap. You weren't supposed to hear that, I say. Well, I guess you'll find out eventually. Have a seat. You know how Allan has been relentless, trying to convince me to marry him so that he can take our land. Well, he came by earlier, and I may have blurted out that Daniel was my fiancé. Jeremiah's face drops in disbelief. It came out of nowhere, I continued. I have no idea what I was thinking. Saying it out loud to the 2 people I care about most in the world somehow makes it worse. Ha, Mom? Are you serious? Daniel says as he takes a bite of his sandwich. Mustard covers his face and can't believe that I am the one he is laughing at. I know, I respond. You don't have to tell me how stupid it was. I was just getting so sick of Allan always pressuring me. I could feel my face turn hot from embarrassment. You can't just make up a fiancé, Grandma says in a concerned tone. I wanted to get rid of him, but I think it may have backfired. He seemed rather angry when he left. Ziva, I don't understand, Grandma says. You're not a liar. Why would you make up something like this? And to bring Daniel, your employee that you hardly know, into it. Her face furrowed into a disapproving look. I know. You are right. It was a stupid thing to do. Luckily, Daniel agreed to play along for now. I only plan to keep the charade going until I can figure out how to get rid of Allan for good. You're crazy, Mom, Jeremiah says with a laugh. He picks up his glass of lemonade and finishes it off. I've got to get back to work with your fiancé. The door slams shut behind, and I turn back to Grandma. I should have never lied to Allan, I say as I massage my temples. Lies never have a good ending, Grandma replies. She picks up her plate, then mine, and sets them in the sink. She is right. This is going to have a very bad ending.
Chapter 8. Daniel. The air starts to cool as I watch the sun disappear over the horizon. I heave the bag of chicken feed over my shoulder and walk towards the barn. Once I step back outside, I look up at the night sky and admire the combination of red and orange colors shooting across the horizon. With a quick glance down at my clothes, I decide to make my way back to the main house to wash up. Ziva is in the living room with a blanket draped around her shoulders. She is reading a book out loud as Jeremiah sits, listening intently at her feet. "Hi, Daniel," Jeremiah says as he catches me walking past. "Oh, hello. I didn't mean to interrupt." "You're not interrupting," Ziva says. She smiles at me and gestures towards the kitchen. "Grandma is almost done preparing dinner. Would you like to join us?" "Sure," I respond politely. "I could use a good home-cooked meal after today's workload. I'll go get cleaned up." Ziva nods in approval and continues to read Jeremiah's book aloud. I linger in the doorway for a moment, listening to her smooth and comforting voice. Once I finish showering and getting dressed, I make my way to the kitchen. The smell of roasted turkey and vegetables fills my nostrils. "This looks amazing," I say as I enter the room. Grandma smiles with pride and pulls out a chair for me. "You are doing a great job on the ranch," Ziva says as she passes me a plate of mashed potatoes. "It has been a huge help to have you here." "Mom actually had time to play with me today," Jeremiah says excitedly. "She always says she's too busy to play." Ziva laughs and gives me a shrug. "It's true, I never have free time, but with you here I have been able to find some throughout the day." "That means you'll be able to help me practice for baseball tryouts, right, Mom?" Jeremiah says enthusiastically. "I'll help you, but I don't think I'll be any good," Ziva replies. "I can help you practice. I actually played baseball my entire life," I say. "I even played with the military teams on base." Jeremiah nearly jumps out of his chair with excitement. "Have you ever hit a home run?" he says with wide eyes. "Of course I have. I'll teach you how to hit it out of the park every time." Lighting up his entire face, Jeremiah grins and vigorously nods his head up and down. We both agree to a practice session after dinner. He leans across the table for a high five, and I feel a surge of excitement as I continue to dig my way through the turkey. "Anything else exciting happen at school today?" Grandma asks. "I think Miss Hartman is sick," Jeremiah answers. Her face looked pale, and she said she had a headache all day. Jimmy told us he saw her at Chili's the night before, and she was falling out of her chair. I nearly spit out my carrots and quickly cover my mouth with a napkin. "Oh, I've heard that woman could never say no to a margarita," Grandma says as she shakes her head. "Grandma, be nice. She is one of Jeremiah's favorite teachers," Ziva says through a stifled laugh. "I'm done," Jeremiah announces as he jumps up from his seat. "Can we go practice baseball now?" "Please help your grandmother with the dishes first," Ziva replies. Grabbing whatever is closest to him, Jeremiah runs toward the sink and dumps the dishes in. After he gets the all clear from Ziva, he yanks on my sleeve and tugs me towards the front door. "I'm ready to learn that home run hit," he says. "All right," I say as I grab the bat and ball from behind the front door. "Let's set up a field." We draw a line in the dirt and set out used feed bags as the bases. Ziva illuminates the makeshift field with a few lamps that she brought from the barn. Jeremiah steps up to home plate and holds out the bat. I move his shoulder in and adjust his arm level to the ground. "You need to choke up on the bat like this," I say as I move his hands into position. "Like this?" He holds out the bat for me to examine. "You've got it! Get ready! Here comes a fast one." I step back onto the homemade pitcher's mound and toss the ball. Whack! The ball soars through the night sky and out of sight. "Run!" we all yell in unison. Cheering wildly, we watch as Jeremiah takes off at full speed. He makes it to first, and the excitement continues. "He takes first, he takes second, he's heading for home," I announce as Jeremiah circles around me. "He makes it! Ladies and gentlemen, we have a home run!" Ziva runs towards Jeremiah and lifts him into the air. I watch as they dance around in a circle, cheering. With a smile, I join in with them. "I am the champion!" Jeremiah yells. He's grinning from ear to ear and pumping his fist into the air. I feel a swell of pride flow through me as I watch him celebrate. As we dance around, I relax into the feeling that the night has brought me. I finally feel like I could belong somewhere. Like I could belong here.
Chapter 9. Ziva. Wrapping my arms around Jeremiah, I smile as he tightly squeezes back around my waist. "I can't wait to practice again tomorrow," Jeremiah says. "Daniel, you have to help me again, please." "Sure thing. We can aim for 3 home runs next time," he says as he tosses the ball into the air and mimics a swing. "All right, go inside and wash up. It's past your bedtime." I give Jeremiah another hug and walk him to the front door. "Would you like a drink from inside, Daniel?" "I'll have a beer if you've got 'em," he says. He takes a seat in one of the rocking chairs on the porch and I head inside. After all the running and cheering, I realize that a beer actually sounds refreshing. I go into the kitchen and pick one out for Daniel and a second one for myself. Pushing my shoulder on the door, I slide through and hand the bottle to Daniel, then settle down in the chair next to him. "There is a bottle opener behind you," I say, as I point to the storage bin that is pushed up against the house. He cracks open his bottle, then hands the opener to me. I do the same and take a long sip. The fluid feels ice cold as it pours down my throat. I let out a sigh of pleasure, lean back, and let my body fall limp in my chair. "It's beautiful out here at night," Daniel says as he raises the bottle to his lips. "This is my favorite time of day," I respond. "Just listen." I hold a finger up to my lips and close my eyes. There's a faint buzzing sound in the air that is accompanied by a symphony of crickets. A soft breeze picks up, and I turn to look at Daniel. For a moment, I study his face, tracing the contour of his brow with my eyes, down to the sharp edge of his cheekbones. He has small beads of sweat sitting on his upper lip. As I watch him, I feel the breath leave my body as though I exhaled too much. His face, now illuminated by the moonlight, looks younger than when it is in the harsh sunlight. "Are you enjoying your time here so far?" I ask. "Yes, I am," Daniel says sincerely. "I'm enjoying it a lot, actually. You have a great family." Jeremiah looked like he enjoyed playing baseball with you. I push my hair behind my ear and continue. "Thank you for doing that." I pause for a moment. "You know, Jeremiah's grandfather has been the only male influence in his life. But since he died," I pause again. The pain of his loss grips at my stomach, and I swallow hard. Having you around is really good for him. He needs a man to teach him things, like how to hit a home run. "He's a great boy," Daniel says with a light chuckle. "I was raised by my grandparents too. It was hard to relate to them sometimes, but I think they did the best they could. I probably wasn't the easiest boy to raise." Daniel looks down at his hands as he picks at the label around his bottle. He shifts in his chair and suddenly looks uncomfortable. I decide not to press him about his grandparents and change the subject. So have you ever had a fake fiance before? I blurt out. Embarrassed by my own actions, I cringe at the topic. However, we probably should talk about it. Are you joking? He says as he lets out an uncomfortable laugh. I know it was a dumb thing to do, but I really appreciate you helping me out. I was desperate to get rid of Allan. Daniel doesn't speak for a moment. I try to decipher the expression on his face. I understand, he finally says as he looks up at me. His eyes make direct contact with mine, and I feel the urge to lean in closer. I am here to help you. And if pretending to be your fiancé so some jerk leaves you alone, then that is what I will do, he says in a deep and comforting tone. Nearly leaning out of my seat, I feel my heart race in my chest. Who was this man, and why is he so good to me and my family? Taking in a deep breath, I look at him, and with a bit more gratitude. Thank you, Daniel, I say in appreciation. My train of thought vanishes from my mind. For a moment, we just sit there. His eyes are still penetrating mine as I feel my body getting warmer. Well, I should probably turn in for the night, Daniel says. I have a long day tomorrow. You're right, I said disappointedly. So do I. We stand from the chairs, and I notice my legs feel weak. Daniel walks towards the door and glances over his shoulder. Good night, Ziva, he says. Lingering behind, I grab both the bottles, then go inside and set them on the counter. Feeling lightheaded from the beer, I decide to go straight to my bed. Sprawling my arms out wide, I twist and fall backwards into a cloud of blankets. I close my eyes and redraw the image of Daniel sitting across from me on the porch. With a smile, I let myself drift off to sleep while my imagination continues our night together.
Chapter 10. Daniel. Walking down the aisle, I keep an eye out for the right feed. Feeling a little out of my element, I ask an employee for some assistance. Oh, of course, you're coming from Ziva's place, right? The employee asks. Yeah, I just started up. I answer, smiling. She's a good lady. I was close with her grandmother for some time. Good ladies in both, the man says, reminiscing. You better work hard for them, eh? Of course, they've been so kind to me. Anyway, the feed that Ziva gets is just this way. The man walks over to a bin close by, and then the bell at the door front rings. I ignore it, helping the man with the amount of feed that I need. It's the red truck in the yard. Perfect, you just wait here and I'll be back in a sec to charge you. I nod to him as he heads off and look around the store. It's cleanly kept, clearly a good store to be getting feed, with kind employees. Ziva must value supporting local friends, I think to myself, and find myself respecting her even more. Hey! Comes a voice from behind me suddenly. I turn to find the man from yesterday, Allan, standing much too close to me. Can I help you? I ask, taking a step backwards. Allan follows me forward a step. Yeah, jerk, you can. He's a little bit shorter than me, but his spit is still flying in my face as he talks. I know you're not engaged to Ziva. You better back the hell down, boy. You don't know how stuff is run in this town. Me and Ziva have been in the coming for a long time. His face turns an unbecoming shade of red as he talks louder and louder. Are you calling me a liar, Allan? I say calmly. Hell yeah, I am. I don't appreciate your assumptions. You don't know me, and clearly you don't know my fiancé, I say, shifting forward so that Allan is forced to concede a step. We've been engaged for a month now, and you have no business coming around her ranch. Allan swallowed hard and took another step back, sputtering and angry. You keep away from my fiancé or you'll have me to answer to. I was military, and I know how to deal with the likes of you. Allan opens his mouth, like he's going to say something, but then closes it again. His face is red as a tomato, with a vein looking like it's about to burst in his forehead. Finally, he gives up and forces out some laughs. I keep my face serious, trying not to give him any reason to disbelieve me, but he doesn't seem to have fully bought my story. Allan laughs again, then turns and walks away. His contempt makes me so angry. He's ridiculous, entitled, and the worst kind of a man. All my life I've hated men who believe that a woman should belong to them simply because they want her, even when she says no again and again. Suddenly I'm seeing red, with a nearly uncontrollable urge to follow Allan and make him fight me in the parking lot. A solid fist to the face would shake that smug smile off. I take a step forward after him. Ziva shouldn't have to deal with this jerk, I think, but then the employee walks in again, and I shake myself out of my rage. Allan will get what's coming to him. I'll make sure of it, and I won't let him keep bothering Ziva and her family. I turn and force a smile out to the feed store employee. Your stuff's all loaded into the truck, he says, punching something into the computer. He looks up smiling, but then notices my face and becomes confused. Everything all right, bud? Yeah, everything is fine, or it will be soon enough. I respond, smiling as I imagine what it would feel like to teach men like Allan a lesson. If you say so. He rings me up and I pay for the feed with the money that Ziva gave me. I walk into the parking lot and get back into my car, but as I walk I notice Allan's truck lingering on the edge of the parking lot. He's leaning on the side of the truck, watching me as he smokes. He winks at me, like he's in on some secret, then cracks his knuckles while smiling. I smile back at him with a touch of menace in my face. I think about flipping him off, but take the higher road and just get into my car. For the whole ride home, I can't stop thinking about how horrible it is that Ziva has had to deal with this man for so long. It's hard to feel quite so bad about lying to people when this is the man I'm lying to.
Chapter 11. Ziva. Grandma didn't want to cook us dinner, and I've been out working for most of the afternoon, and now it's too late for me to start anything. Why don't we head to the diner in town? Grandma asks. Yeah, Jeremiah shouts. He's just come in from playing out in the field and was begging for anything to eat, being a growing boy. All right, since I'm sure not cooking, I say, smiling. Family meals can be hard to come by some nights, with how busy me and Gran are, so I never want to say no to a night together. We start heading towards my truck when Daniel comes through the door. Oh, good, you made it back in time, I say in greeting. We were about to go out to the diner in town. Why don't you join us? You've definitely worked hard enough today to have earned it. We'll pay. I'm not sure, he responds. I'm a little dirty from the day's work. I was going to shower. And I cut him off before he can finish. Don't worry. We're all dirty. Nobody will care. You gotta come, Dad, Jeremiah says with a wink, and I laugh. Maybe, he says. But what I was going to say is that you guys are already paying me a wage for my hard work. I won't be letting you pay fancy meals for me. Things cooked here are one thing, but buying me a plate at a diner is another. I respect that he's both able to accept some of our food, but that he's able to draw a clear line and not accept charity. Fine, I say, but you'll always eat as much as you want when we're eating here. Deal, he says, smiling. We all pile together into the truck, Daniel and Jeremiah together in the back. As we drive, Jeremiah rambles on about his adventures at school and then everything he did when he got home, and Daniel sits patiently and listens. Occasionally, he chimes in about how cool something is. It's nice for me to see Jeremiah getting to talk to another man about his life. We get to the diner and head inside, sitting in a booth. It's a cute place, with good coffee and even better people. The service is always friendly, and we all know each other the way everyone knows everyone in a small town. Hey, Ziva. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Our server asks. Real good, thanks. We just finished a good day's work, I say, smiling. Well, aren't you going to introduce me to this handsome new man right here? She asks, giving me a knowing look. Hi, Daniel interrupts. I'm her fiancé. Oh, Ziva, you never even told me, she exclaims. Yeah, I didn't talk about him much until he got down on one knee and was able to move out here with me. You get to meet him now, though. She smiles, and we exchange a few more pleasantries before she takes our order and walks away. In a few minutes, our diner is placed down in front of us, smelling so delightful that Daniel actually groans, making the rest of us laugh. We dig in, all so hungry that no one even speaks, until suddenly we're interrupted. Ah, would you look at the newly engaged, says Allan, standing at the end of our booth. Weird though, you'd think you'd want to be near each other, not on opposite sides of the table. I start to open my mouth, not knowing what to respond, but Jeremiah beats me to it. Suck it, Allan. I wanted to sit beside Daniel. He's my dad. My eyes widen in shock at his language, but I quickly school my face back to normal, noticing Daniel and Gran doing the same. My smart boy, so quick on his feet and ready to save the day. Allan laughs, a rather uncomfortable sound. We'll see about that. He takes a step away, but then pauses and looks back at me over his shoulder. Play your little game. You'll be mine when you're done. Then he leaves and slumps back into his booth on the other side of the restaurant. God, that was embarrassing. The whole diner seems to pause to listen to what happened, and I can just imagine the way everyone must be stealing glances at me. I'm looking down at the table, but then Daniel's hand appears in front of me, palm up, an invitation. I take it grateful for the chance to be able to show the people in the diner that Allan is wrong. Holding hands, Daniel gives me a reassuring smile, and I smile back, painting the picture of a couple in love standing together against opposition. Slowly, the diner returns to normal. Thank you, I say quietly, and Daniel nods back at me. You too, I say to Jeremiah. You thought quickly there. Good job. I'm super smart, Mom, so it was easy. I smile at him in agreement, and we slip back into a carefree spirit as we enjoy the rest of the meal. But I can't forget the scene we just caused. This may end up being harder than I thought.
Chapter 12. Daniel. I can't believe that guy, I think to myself. Who does he think he is accusing her like that? My thoughts are racing as we finish eating our meal, and I'm getting more and more angry. First, the incident in the feed store, and now this. I'm sick of him treating Ziva this way. He just wants to marry her because of her land. The way things work, if they got married, then he'd automatically be able to get it, even if they divorced, which is probably his plan anyways. But if he wants land, then he should try to buy it, not practically steal it and hurt a woman with no options. Just because she has more land than she can currently handle doesn't mean that he can just take it from her. It doesn't mean that he's right just because he has enough money to run it. That land has belonged to Ziva's family for years, and I don't know her well yet, but I do know that it would crush her to lose that. Allan has no boundaries and no respect. He needs to be taught his place. All ready for the bill? Our server asks. In my anger, I'd barely even noticed that everyone was done eating and was talking to each other. Yeah, of course, I'll take the bill, Ziva says before I can answer. Oh, she says briefly, glancing at me in confusion before she regains her smile. Right, of course. Don't worry, Ziva says with a smile. He'll be getting the next one. I give her a look, and once the server leaves, I stake my claim. And I'll be paying my meal for this one as well. Yes, yes, don't you get your panties in a twist, she says, laughing at my shocked expression at the words panties. I'll take it out of your pay. Ziva hands the waitress the money that we owed, plus a generous tip. Then we get up to leave. Jeremiah and Grandma are walking ahead of Ziva and I, not paying attention, but I notice Allan glaring up at us from his booth with two other men. I make a split-second decision then and there. Grabbing Ziva by the waist, I pull her in and lean down to kiss her passionately. Her body bends to fit perfectly against mine as our lips meet, and her arms wrap around my neck. Sparks fly as we put on a show for the booth in front of us. I run a hand up her back to twine it into her hair while the other rests just above her bum. Ziva kisses me back, and I love it. She feels so much better than I'd expected. Slowly, we split apart. The kiss was amazing, but I almost loved the look on Allan's face just as much. Ziva turns and keeps walking, not even acknowledging Allan. I lean down and give him a grin. Do you want some too? You couldn't seem to stop watching. I smirk. You won't be getting any. Then I turn and walk away, satisfied by Allan's sputtering. We head home, Jeremiah and Grandma seemingly oblivious to what happened in the diner. Once we're all back at the ranch, Grandma takes out dominoes and calls for a few rounds. I'd never played before, so Jeremiah takes the lead on explaining the rules to me, with Grandma chiming in when he forgets something. Ziva is being oddly quiet, and I worry that she was offended by the kiss. But then she meets my eyes, looking up from under her long eyelashes, and gives me a smile. Suddenly there's tension between us again, and I can't wait for the game to be over. It takes an agonizingly long time, and would have been fun if it weren't for the way Ziva's foot kept brushing against my leg, reminding me of the way it felt to have her body against mine, even briefly. She keeps smiling at me in a slightly seductive way when no one else is looking, and it's driving me insane. All right, guys, this'll be the last round for me, Grandma says. Finally, I think to myself. Oh, man, Jeremiah tries to say, but he manages to cut himself off with his own yawn. Seems like you're ready for bed too, little man, Ziva laughs. You've had a big day today. How about we go all in? Winner of this round takes the game. Everyone agrees, and Jeremiah ends up winning. I claim my victory prize being no cleanup for me, he shouts, then runs upstairs before anyone can tell him otherwise. I'll follow him. You two can handle this. I did come second after all, Grandma says with a smile, then follows him up the stairs. Ziva smiles at me and comes close, standing over me in my chair. She leans in, reaching towards me, and I tilt my neck up to meet her. And then she reaches past me to pick up the tin of dominoes and stands back up with a laugh while I groan. Quickly, I help her clean up, then we sit together on the couch. The first kiss was good, but I bet the second one will be better. I look over to her, finding her staring at me expectantly with a smirk on her face like she knows exactly what I'm thinking. So I lean in, ready to give her what she's asking for.
Chapter 13. Ziva. All it takes is the first brush of Daniel's lips against mine, and the next thing I know, I'm straddling him on the couch, not totally sure of how I got there. I decide not to worry about it, and run my hands over his deliciously firm chest instead. He caresses my lower lip with his tongue, sending a rush of heat through me. At my quiet gasp, he tangles a hand in my hair, as if to bring my face even closer. His other hand wraps around my waist, anchoring me to him even though there's no chance I'm going anywhere. He deepens the kiss, and the velvety dance of our tongues sends another wave into the ocean of desire inside me. I can't believe how much Daniel turns me on. I could kiss this man forever, until he slides his hand up to brush the swell of my chest. That is, now I want way more than kissing. I press my hips into him, feeling him already hard beneath me. He lets out a groan, and suddenly I remember where we are. Daniel, I say in a hush. We're making out on the couch like teenagers. Like teenagers? He laughs a little. Nothing felt anywhere near this good when I was a teenager. That almost gets me kissing him again, but I restrain myself. Barely. We have to get to my bedroom. Is that what you want? He asks, hesitation crossing his face. I want you, I say. The look in his eyes changes to pure lust, and his hands tighten on me. You're the boss, he says, raising his eyebrow in a way that for some reason I find absurdly sexy. I am, aren't I? I lean back in like I'm going to kiss him again. He holds his breath in anticipation, but I stop at the last minute. Then I need you to take me upstairs. I breathe. If you want to know where this spicy scene is headed, you won't be able to hear it now due to this platform's guidelines and restrictions. But we want to make it up to you by offering the unabridged version of any Vixa audiobook, including this one, for 40% off. All you need to do is go to vixavonromance.com and use code VIXA40 at checkout. Are you enjoying the story so far? Let's get back into it.
Chapter 14. Daniel. The early morning sun is pleasant on my neck, despite the backbreaking work of weeding and preparing the field. I'm hardly aware of it as my mind wanders over the previous night's activities. I'm having major flashbacks. Oh God, Daniel. The memory of Ziva's breathy moans, my name on her lips, her long legs wrapped around me. I groan quietly. It's not like I haven't done it before. I've done it and had a lot of it, once upon a time. But last night was different. She's different. I was surprised by her willingness, her vulnerability, those moments when she let her guard down and her eyes shone with light and desire. I wonder if it'll happen again. I can't help but hope so. You're an idiot, I tell myself. Don't let yourself go there. But I do. I can't help it. I don't like to admit it, but I want the great love that you read about in books. Somehow, after everything that's happened, I still want that. I pause my work, looking up at the ranch around me. Maybe I can have that here. I find myself imagining it. I can see myself working these lands in 5, 10, 20 years. I picture Jeremiah growing up, having a family of his own. Ziva, older and still as beautiful and strong. I imagine waking up beside her, making love to her every day. Maybe there'd be another kid in our future. Reality sets in. Who would love a broken man? A clatter of hooves makes me look up, and I have to shield my eyes from the sun. I can't help the grin that spreads across my face. She looks like a heavenly being, framed by the bright sunlight. Hey, I say with a smirk. You should eat, she responds briskly. But I can see she's hiding a smile. Nothing like a little hard work to make the time fly, I say with a chuckle. She swings off Diva, landing deftly, and holds out a basket. Appreciate it, I murmur, reaching out and taking the basket. Our hands touch for a brief moment, and she gasps softly. Guess I'm not the only one having flashbacks. Our eyes meet for a moment, and she blinks coyly. Well, I'd better go, she says, somewhat reluctantly. Okay, I respond. She bites her lip, as if she wants to say something and then thinks better of it. She tugs gently on the reins, and Diva turns. I watch her ride off, and the sight of her rounded behind rising and falling with the motions of Diva's trot makes me groan again. She's by far one of the sexiest women I've ever met. What I love is how unintentional it is. She doesn't try to be sexy, and that makes her even more attractive. I rub my eyes and move towards the shade of a tree, finally feeling the ache of my muscles. God, it feels good to be working. I feel productive for the first time in months. Already I've started to notice the way my body is changing. I think of the other night, when Ziva was openly appreciating my body. It makes me chuckle wryly. It's been a long time since a woman made me feel so good about myself. I remember how easily I picked Ziva up last night, on the way to the bedroom. The way her eyes darkened with hunger as she stripped the clothes from my body. I stop myself. This is all fake. It's a fake relationship, I tell myself. Don't complicate things by putting real feelings in the mix. While it does nothing to stop my churning thoughts, I smile. If it's all a fake relationship, then maybe there's no harm in having a little fun. The rest of the afternoon goes by in a blur as the sun moves across the sky. As I'm heading in for a shower, Jeremiah arrives back from school. When he catches sight of me coming in from the fields, he rushes over. Daniel, guess what happened at school today? I laugh at his enthusiasm as he recounts a story about a baseball game at recess. Ziva appears in the doorway. "Come on, Jer. Leave the poor guy alone for a minute." He glances at his mom, then back at me, conflicted. "Oh, okay." He scampers towards the house and then stops. "I'll finish telling you at dinner." "I can't wait," I respond with a grin. I watch him disappear into the house while Ziva holds open the door. She glances over at me and gives me a soft, knowing smile. It makes my stomach flutter. "I guess I'll see you at dinner," she says. "I guess you will." There's a shuffling sound behind me and Grandma emerges from the barn. I tip my hat to her and she smiles politely. She pauses for a minute, gazing at me intently. There's something like a warning in her wise brown eyes. Eventually, her eyes soften. "Now you better get in there and clean up. Dinner won't be long." "Yes, ma'am," I murmur and follow her into the house.
Chapter 15. Ziva. "Come on, girl," I coax as Smokey lumbers out of her stable. "You need to get some exercise today." She snorts softly, nuzzling my ear as she passes me. I pat her flank affectionately. I'm really looking forward to some thinking time out on the trails. I need to clear my mind. Suddenly, her ears flatten, and I hear the roar of a powerful engine. Only one person could dare make such a grand entrance. I sigh in irritation and lead Smokey back into her stable, bracing myself for the worst. "Hey, baby," Allan drawls, leaning against a ridiculously polished car. "Like my new wheels? You look real good in the front seat." He pats the hood for emphasis and leers at me. You know what they say about men who drive cars like that? I force myself to laugh, making a gesture with my finger and thumb. His face darkens. "What do you want, Allan?" "Me? What do I want?" He smirks, taking his sweet time to look me up and down, stopping at my chest. God, could he be more disgusting? I clear my throat and he laughs. "Just wanted to let you know that there's a fence down between our properties. It's one of yours. Gosh, this place is really looking run down." Allan slowly saunters over the barn and flicks off some peeling paint. He nudges a pile of timber with the toe of his clean work boots. I sigh. "Well, thanks for driving all the way over here to tell me that." "No problem, baby." I bristle with annoyance at his tone. "So where's that, fiancé of yours?" "Somewhere." I glance over my shoulder, hoping that Daniel is within earshot. "Come off it, Ziva. That man is not engaged to you. I know he's just a drifter, ex-army or something." "And how would you have any idea about that?" I narrow my eyes dangerously. Allan laughs and steps closer to me. He reaches out and almost brushes my cheek. I shrink back, revolted by his proximity. "Oh, sweet innocent Ziva." I roll my eyes at him. "Well, Daniel and I are engaged, whether you like it or not. And even if we weren't, I'd honestly rather marry the devil than you." I immediately know that I've made a mistake. Allan's eyes glint with anger. "You coward!" He lunges towards me, and I leap backwards with a scream. "Ziva!" I hear Daniel roar. The next thing I know, Allan's face is red and contorted as Daniel stands above him, his arm twisted behind his back. "You better take your hands off me right this second," Allan screeches, spitting with rage. "I'll have a restraining order put on you." Daniel leans down, further twisting Allan's arm. Only a cowardly, disgusting piece of trash would ever try to hit a woman, Daniel hisses. Allan's mouth moves, but no words form. His face gets more red. "Daniel," I whisper as a warning. He looks up at me and seems to snap out of it. "Get the hell off our property and don't ever come back." His voice is low and dangerous. He drops Allan's arm and pushes him towards his truck. Allan stumbles into the dirt. He scrambles away and climbs shakily onto his feet. Gasping for breath, He fixes us both with a glowering stare. You're going to live to regret this. Both of you. Say goodbye to your fantasy, happy ever after. He spits on the ground between us. I feel Daniel tense up beside me, but I grab his arm. Let him go, I murmur quietly. A door opens at the house and Jeremiah rushes out. Mom, what's going on out here? My heart stops as Allan's eyes travel to take in Jeremiah. Go back inside now, Jer. My voice shakes as I watch him frown with confusion and turn back into the house. Allan looks back and forth between us and gives me a crazed grin. I'm sure I'll see you soon, baby. He gets into his car and speeds down the road, leaving a trail of red dust in the air. I let out an uncharacteristic sob. Within a moment, Daniel is there, his arms wrapped tightly around me as I shake against his chest. It's okay. It's okay, he soothes, gently stroking my back. The bastard is gone. He won't be back. I want to believe him, but all I feel is the thumping of my heart and the paralyzing fear. He's a monster, Daniel. He has nothing to lose. He's going to do everything he can to destroy us. He'll be back. We won't let him. I'm here now. I can help. I'll protect you. Jeremiah slips out the house and runs over to us. I quickly push myself out of Daniel's arms and paste a wobbly smile onto my face. Mom, what was that about? Why are you crying? I pull him in for a hug. It's okay. I'm okay. Did he hurt you? Jeremiah's eyes are ablaze with indignation. No, he didn't. He's just an impossible man. Nothing you need to worry about, sweetheart. Now let's go get something to eat. Have you finished your homework yet? I force myself into a cheerful tone and ruffle his hair. As we approach the house, I glance back at Daniel, who hasn't moved, still staring at the road grimly. Over on the porch, Grandma watches with a guarded expression. This thing with Allan has gone way too far.
I hope you're enjoying this audiobook by Vic Savon. If you want to keep hearing more audiobooks, then please hit that subscribe button and like the video. It may seem insignificant, but the more people that subscribe, the easier it is to produce more audiobooks in the future. So please help us out and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for listening, and now back to your book.
Chapter 16, Daniel. Long after the dust has settled, my body still thrums with adrenaline. Anger simmers, threatening to spill over at any point. I'm putting the last of the animals away for the night when I sense Ziva's lingering gaze. She sits on a bale of hay, knees tucked against her chest, her face lined with worry. Again the anger rises within me. I want to kill that idiot for scaring her. I could have killed him today if it hadn't been for her. I'm so sorry for dragging you into this, she murmurs softly. Ziva, don't apologize for that man. I close the final stable door and lean against it, exhausted. Why does he keep coming back? She doesn't answer for a long time, and the only sounds are those of the animals, nosing through their feed. Smokey nickers gently. He wants the land. Which land? Up by the eastern pastures. You know it? It runs right along the border of his ranch. I hardly use it. It's so far away, and there are just so many other things to focus on. I get that. She's already overwhelmed with the piece of land she works. It's all about money, of course. If he had that little piece of land, he'd have the biggest ranch. He'd be able to increase the size of his herds. I examine her. There seems to be more going on than just a disagreement over land. So, at the risk of playing devil's advocate, I pause carefully. Why don't you just let him have the land? Her body somehow gets even more tense, and I wonder if I've gone too far. Because, she finally says after a deep breath, it's important to me, to us, to this family. It's where we laid my grandfather to rest and where he laid his grandfather before. It's our history, our connection to this land. I finally understand why it feels like this is more than just a fight about land. To Allan, it would just be another 10 acres to add to his own. Does he know about the history? She laughs wryly. Oh, he knows, but does he care? I'm sure you can answer that for yourself. He's never cared about anything but the money. She slowly uncurls and gets to her feet. He wants it so badly, Daniel. I'm just scared of how far he's willing to go to get it. I cross the distance between us and touch her cheek softly. If anyone can keep Allan away, it's you, Ziva. You are so strong, so fierce. I know you'll do whatever it takes to keep your family and your land safe. She gives me a small smile. But I just want you to know that you're not alone. I'm here and I'll also do whatever it takes. She reaches up and pulls my chin down. The kiss is lingering but remains sweet and comforting. I'm glad you're here, Daniel. She stays nestled in my arms until we hear the chime of the porch bell. Better get inside for dinner before everyone gets suspicious, she says with a light laugh. One more second, I murmur, kissing her again. This time I make my desires known and she lets out a tiny moan, molding her body to mine. I reluctantly break away. To be continued, I shoot her a grin and walk out the barn. I hear her give a lengthy sigh behind me. While dinner is a somewhat quieter affair than usual, Grandma keeps us all entertained with stories of her misadventures in the early days of her marriage. Grandma, tell Daniel the story about how you and Granddad went camping and almost got eaten by a bear. Jeremiah gushes over his slice of peach pie. Ziva chuckles. Oh yeah, that's a good one. Her uncovered foot lightly brushes against my leg under the table, and I can't help the spark of desire that explodes in my belly. I glance up and see her eyes are dancing. She knows exactly what she's doing. Despite my mind wanting to take other pathways, I force myself back to Grandma's stories. I watch the way that Grandma's eyes light up when she talks about her husband, and how they darken with sadness at the end of the story. How long were you two married? I ask her. 60 years, she murmurs, looking wistfully towards the shelf where their wedding day has been memorialized. I let out a long whistle. Wow, that's a long time. She smiles warmly. It only seems long because you're so young, Daniel. She gazes at me for a long moment. If you got married fairly soon, you could also have a 60-year marriage. Jeremiah chuckles. Maybe you and Mom should get married for real. Jer, Ziva says with forced laugh. I laugh too, but I can't help but look over to Ziva as she begins clearing up the plates. Our eyes meet, and I wonder if she can see the question in mine. Hey, Mom, do you think we could play a game tonight? Ziva is just about to respond when Jeremiah freezes. Jer! Ziva rushes over to her son. Do you smell that? He said with a deadly serious expression. What is it, Jer? Smoke, he says. Ziva looks as though she's about to faint. And then I smell it too.
Chapter 17. Ziva. Smoke? For a split second, I think the house must have caught fire somehow, and I begin to shake. Then I see the reddish flickering through the window, over the sink. I rush outside. Everyone else is just a step behind me. In the darkness, we see it right away. The northeastern corner of the barn is alight. I feel paralyzed. How could I let this happen? My family's barn is being eaten by glowing flames. And it must be my fault. My grandfather would be more than disappointed. He would be horrified. Ziva! Daniel's voice pulls me back to myself. Where are the hoses? I snap to it and run for the hoses. Jeremiah is already there, struggling with the biggest and heaviest one. I help him, and Daniel grabs a hose too. As soon as we bring them in range of the barn, Grandma turns on the water. We angle ourselves so the spray covers the whole blaze, and soon it's out. I can't believe this. I look at the charred walls and feel weak. I must have left a lighter or something near the hay bales. The hay is on the other side of the barn. Daniel shakes his head. There's nothing in this corner right now to burn. That's why the fire stayed small. Mom, Jeremiah calls. The horses are out. How did they get out of the barn? I wonder aloud. The front doors of the barn are closed. I let them free, says an unfamiliar voice. I shriek as a man in ratty stained overalls steps from behind the barn. His hands are raised in the air in the classic gesture of surrender. I'm sorry, Miss Ziva, the stranger continues. I set the fire. I had to. Allan Lanson paid me, and I'm in sore need of money. Allan paid you? I repeat in shock. I realize Daniel is next to me, tensed like he's ready for a fight. I followed orders, but I did my best to spare you from real damage. I let the horses out first and found the emptiest corner to start the fire in. You got a good reputation in this town, Ms. Ziva, and I don't want to hurt you or your ranch. Are we supposed to say thank you? There's fury in Daniel's tone. No, replies the man. I'm telling you because you all deserve to be warned that Allan's got it out for you. Be careful, Ms. Ziva. Before we can ask anything else, he slips into the shadows and is gone. My heart is racing faster than one of my horses at full speed. I'm so full of fear that my body feels numb. Suddenly, Daniel is there, wrapping his arms around me. He's so warm and solid. A little of the feeling comes back into my limbs. I'm scared to death. But somehow this simple gesture is enough to make me feel a little safer. Come inside, he murmurs. You're shaking. We have to inspect the barn, I say. As much as I don't want to, I pull away from Daniel. This is my farm being threatened. I have to figure out what to do, not stand there and be comforted. That'll keep, calls Grandma from the porch. You all come in here. We have bigger problems than that barn to figure out right now. She's right. We all go in. As soon as we're through the doorway, I grab my son and hug him tight. He's only 12. He shouldn't have to experience something like this. What are we going to do? Asks Jeremiah. It's going to be okay. I rub his back and make a decision. The best thing right now is to call the sheriff. I pick up the phone, and in a few moments I'm telling Sheriff McCauley everything that happened. I'm sorry, Ziva, he says when I've finished. That sounds horrible, but without the man who said it as a witness, we don't have any proof that Allan is responsible. I argue with him for a few moments, but he's right. I don't even know that man's name. I hang up, defeated, and look at everyone. Their faces are solemn. They heard enough to know it's not good news. Well, there's nothing more we can do tonight, says Grandma. It's late, past Jeremiah's bedtime. I kiss my son on the head, and both he and Grandma go up to bed. I know I should too, but instead I collapse on the couch. I can feel tears coming, but I try to hold them off. Then Daniel sits next to me and takes my hand in both of his. That does it, and I begin to sob. He doesn't try to talk me down or anything. He just lets me cry, eventually putting his arms around me. I thought it was my fault at first, I whisper. And in a way it was. I should have been stronger. I shouldn't have let things with Allan get so far. You can't blame yourself. Daniel holds me tighter. You said it yourself the other day. Allan is a monster. And you, well, you're the strongest woman I've ever met. He lifts my chin with his fingers so I'm looking at him and kisses me. I sink into his lips, the need for reassurance quickly turning to another need entirely. Soon I'm in his lap, and we're kissing like there's no tomorrow. Chapter 18. Ziva. Here we are, making out on the couch again. But this time feels different. The excited teenager's energy is gone, replaced by something deeper. I felt safe with Daniel from the beginning, but now I feel at home with him. That thought should scare me, but it doesn't. He stood by my side tonight and helped save the barn my pop built. That means something. I can tell he feels what I'm feeling. He's running his bands up and down my back, and his kisses are so tender it aches. My desire is growing with every second, the lack of urgency allowing me to appreciate the slow build. I want to see all of him, pull off his clothes and enjoy him. At the same time, I never want to leave this cozy cocoon we've created with our bodies on the couch. I nestle into him, and we kiss for what could be hours, or it could be only minutes, as if we know each other's minds. We both pull back at the same time. Daniel reaches out and traces the side of my face. I tremble with the sweet sensuality of his touch. "Do you want to go upstairs?" he asks. "We don't have to. I just don't want to stop holding you." I want a lot more than that. I lightly nip at his jaw. When I draw back, I see his eyes have darkened with desire. "Then we better get to your bedroom," he growls. Sorry to interrupt again. I know no one likes missing out on a spicy grand finale, but unfortunately this platform won't allow us to air what's about to happen next. To make up for this, we're offering a 40% discount on the full, unabridged version of this audiobook when you go to vixavon.com and apply code VIXA40 at checkout. Thank you for listening to Vixavon Romance. Chapter 19. Ziva. I peer out of the kitchen window, waiting to see Jeremiah at the end of the drive. Continuing to scrub dishes in the sink, I can feel my frustration growing. His bus driver has a habit of running a tad bit late, but this is getting ridiculous. I turn around, dish in hand, to check the clock again. Jeremiah normally got home around 3:30 in the afternoon. It's now nearing 4 o'clock, and still no sign of him. I can't wait any longer. After setting the plate aside and drying my hands, I head outside to find Daniel. He's been working diligently on the fence that never seems to hold up. Pausing from his work, he looks up at me, and I can see the concern wash over his face. "Is everything okay?" "Have you seen Jeremiah?" I ask, ignoring his question. Daniel takes off his gloves and walks over to me. "No, I thought he was in the house with you." "He hasn't come home yet. I was hoping that he was out here working with you." "I'm afraid not. He isn't with his grandma, is he?" "No, she's out getting groceries for dinner." I can feel a lump forming in the back of my throat. "Okay, well, let's not panic. It's possible the just bus broke down or something. Let's go inside and call the school." Daniel places a reassuring arm around my shoulders and leads me toward the house. Once inside, he picks up the phone and dials for the school. I sit down at the kitchen table, biting my lip in anticipation. As they talk, I say a prayer under my breath. Please just let him be okay. "They're checking to see if he got on the bus this afternoon," he tells me with the phone laying against his chest. After a few moments of silence, I can hear the voice on the other end confirm that he had. Something cold lodges in my stomach. "Okay, great. And have there been any reports of a breakdown or anything like that?" Daniel asks. Nodding his head, he walks over to the counter, opens a drawer, and pulls out a pen and an old receipt. Jotting something down on the back of the paper, he thanks the woman on the other end and hangs up the phone. He definitely got on the bus, but according to the receptionist, there haven't been any breakdowns, and no other parents have called in about a delay. Wonderful. That's nearly no help at all. They gave me the phone number for the bus driver, but since I'm not listed as a parent on any of his paperwork, you'll have to call to find out if he's still on the bus. I walk over to Daniel, kiss him on the cheek, and take the paper from him. Thanks for calling. My nerves are a little scattered. That's totally understandable. He hands me the phone, and I dial the number he's written down. It rings 3 times, and I begin to wonder if anyone is going to answer the phone. On the 4th ring, someone finally picks up. Hello? Hi, I'm Ziva, Jeremiah's mom. I was wondering how much longer it'll be before his stop. I can hear the sound of the loud bus in the background, but no noisy children talking or laughing. Ma'am, I dropped him off almost 30 minutes ago. I'm on my way back to the school now. Have you not seen him yet? No, I haven't. Did he get dropped off at his normal bus stop? Yes, it was his normal spot. In fact, I think his father was waiting there for him. His father? His father hasn't been in his life since he was a toddler, and there's no reason for that jerk to come back now. Something isn't adding up. Yes, I didn't get a good look at him, but he was a tall man with dark hair. I suppose they could have been waiting for someone else, though. Let's hope and pray that's all it is. I thanked the woman before hanging up the phone. Well, any news? Daniel asks. She said she dropped him off about 30 minutes ago. He should have been home by now. Maybe he stopped out in the barn to feed the horses before coming in. That's a fair point. Jeremiah has a tendency to get sidetracked. Surely if he fed the horses, I would have seen him through the window. However, my mind has been spinning lately. There's only one way to find out. Turning, we both start for the door. Outside, we see Nana parking the car, but there's no time to stop and talk. I take long, quick strides towards the barn, Daniel matching me step for step. As we near the barn, I can see one door slightly ajar. I take off sprinting towards it, Daniel hot on my heels. Running through the small opening, I push the doors apart. Jeremiah? Silence. The barn looks untouched. No sign of him anywhere. Ziva? I turn to see Daniel bending over. Reaching towards a note laying on the ground, rushing over, I take it from him as he holds it out. As I read the note, I can't help but scream. My blood runs cold as panic, fear, and above all else, anger wash over me. Nothing matters more than finding Jeremiah. May God have mercy on any soul that stands in my way. Chapter 20. Ziva. As I sit on the ground, note in hand, I feel Daniel's arm fall around my shoulders. He leans in to look at me, but I avoid his stare. I am at a loss for words. What on earth is going on? Grandma comes rushing over and kneels beside me. Daniel hesitantly pulls on the note that I have a firm grasp on. I release it and watch as he reads in disbelief. Well, what is it? Swallowing hard, Daniel looks between the two of us before reading the note aloud. It says, "This is your last chance, Ziva. I have something you want. You have something I want. Sell me the ranch and he'll be returned. Go to the cops and you'll never see him again. I'm waiting." Just hearing those words sends chills over my body. I don't understand. What does who have? Asks Grandma. Allan, he took Jeremiah, I explain. Horror spreads across her face. Daniel stands and turns toward me. Taking my hands in his, he helps me to my feet. I can tell by the look in his eyes that he means business. Don't worry, Ziva. I won't let anything or anyone hurt you or Jeremiah. We'll get him back and Allan is going to pay. I nod, still in shock. Daniel places a kiss on my forehead and squeezes me reassuringly. I have no idea what I would do without Daniel. He is my rock during hard times. I help Grandma off her knees and lead her into the house. She is shaking ferociously and sobbing. I know I should say something to her to help ease her mind, but I can't manage a single sound. A million thoughts are running through my head. Is Jeremiah hurt? Does he even know what's going on? How much jail time will I get for murdering a kidnapper? Does Allan know anyone at the police department? What does he mean by, "You'll never see him again"? It's all too much to process. I can't imagine where he has Jeremiah or what state of mind he must be in. One thing is for sure. When I get him back, he's never leaving my side. Daniel helps me seat Grandma at the kitchen table. I know the note says not to call the police, but we have to. I don't want to hurt anyone, but if I go pay Allan a visit right now, it'll end in a bloodbath, Daniel said firmly. We can call Sheriff McCauley. He's a family friend. He won't show up in a uniform, so if by chance Allan is watching the house, we won't raise any red flags. I walk over to the refrigerator and pull off a note that is hanging by a magnet. After our conversation about the barn fire, Kane McCauley gave me his personal phone number to call in case anything else happened. I hand the paper to Daniel, who immediately grabs the telephone and begins dialing. As he calls, I look over at Nana sitting at the table, still visibly shaking. She has her head bowed and hands folded, whispering a prayer beneath her breath. I go to sit beside her and place a hand on top of hers. I'm not an extremely religious person, but if there has ever been a time that I needed a miracle, it is certainly right now. Just as Nan finishes her prayers, Daniel comes over and takes a seat beside me. He takes my hand and places a kiss on my knuckles. He said he'd be over in just a few minutes. No worries. He said he'd be as discreet as possible. I nod and take note of the time on the clock. Time seems to be moving slower today than it ever has. True to his word. About 5 minutes later, we hear a knock at the door. Daniel nearly knocks the chair over as he rushes to answer it. A few moments later, in walks Kane, Daniel following right behind him. As he approaches the table, he pats me on the back and pulls up a chair. Evening, Ziva. He tilts his head towards Nana ma'am. It's clear that he isn't sure how to approach the topic. Then again, neither am I. Daniel awkwardly takes the last seat at the table and clears his throat. Here's the note we found. It was outside the barn. After reading the note, Kane pulls out a pad and pen from his shirt pocket and starts taking notes. So Ziva, Daniel explained the situation over the phone. I'd like to go over too and ask Allan a few questions before I go busting down doors. I'll also need to give Jeremiah's bus driver a call if you don't mind. Maybe I can match her description with Allan. I go over and get the receipt where Daniel had written it down earlier and hand it to him. So I know that this is a very frustrating situation, and I'm terribly sorry that you're all having to go through this. Around this town, we know how Allan can be. That being said, we still need solid proof that he has kidnapped Jeremiah. I can feel my blood pressure start to rise as Kane's talking. We'll have to go and meet with him, and I'll need someone to go with me. That way, if things get hairy, I'll have a witness. I'll go, Daniel offers. All right, Ziva, I'll need you to stay here at the house. If we all leave, Allan might do something crazy, and we don't need any more of that. Plus, Jeremiah's a smart kid. He might make his way back here if he has the chance. And someone should be here to help him if he does. Kane stands and tucks his notepad away. We'll find him and bring him home, I promise. Call me if you hear anything. On their way out the door, Daniel pauses to kiss me on the cheek. I feel so helpless. My son is missing and there's nothing I can do. Let's hope the saying good things come to those who wait is true.
Chapter 21. Daniel. Ready, Daniel? Kane says to me from the doorway. His face looks weathered and weary. He knows just where this night might be headed. Before I follow him out the door, I turn to look at Ziva one last time. She's lowered herself in one of the kitchen chairs, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles are turning white. She looks at me with panic in her eyes. I feel an anger I've never felt before at the man that could make her look so scared. Don't worry, I say to her, trying to keep my anger from escaping in my voice. I'll bring him back. I turn on my heel and follow Kane out into the setting sun. Just seeing Ziva in that state is breaking my heart. I didn't know I could feel this way. As I slide into the passenger seat of Kane's cop car, I promise myself I'll do whatever it takes to make good on my word. Whatever it takes. Allan's always been... Well, Allan, Kane mutters as he pulls his car out onto the state route that leads us to Allan's property. I just hope he hasn't gone and done something completely stupid. For Allan's sake, I hope he hasn't too. For my sake, I hope I get to beat the living tar out of him. It only takes us about 15 minutes to get to Allan's farm, and Kane turns his car onto the gravel road leading up to Allan's ostentatious-looking house. When we step out into the evening air and close the doors behind us, I see that 2 of Kane's deputies have already arrived, leaning against their car and waiting for their boss to show up. "All right, boys," Kane grumbles. "You know how this goes." I watch as Kane and his men step up onto Allan's creaking porch and knock on the door. I'm about to join them when something stops me, foot midair. Maybe it's my imagination, but I think I hear a door closing. I turn to gaze over my shoulder and see the silhouette of someone moving out by the barn. "Oh, no, you don't," I murmur to myself. Without hesitating, I leave the deputies and Kane at Allan's door and head over in the direction of the sound I heard. The barn stands just a few yards away from the house, but in the dying sunlight, it's so dark I can barely see the outline. I stop a few feet away and strain my ears for another sound. Yep, as I suspected, just off to the right, someone is shuffling away from us in tall grass. I bolt forwards and around the side of the barn, where I see the figure of a man with his back turned to me. Red-hot rage takes over my body, and I run up towards him. Preparing for the worst, I grab him by the shoulders, whip him around to face me, and throw him up against the barn wall. "Where's Jeremiah?" I thunder. It's only a second later that I notice that the man I've got pinned against the barn wall isn't Allan. It's someone I've never seen before. Maybe 10 or so years younger than me. This guy looks like someone scared the living daylights out of him, which, of course, I have. His eyes widen to the size of dinner plates, and he searches my face, trying to recognize who I am. Please don't hurt me," he sputters. I loosen my grip, but only barely. Okay. So it's not Allan. But by the looks of his dirty boots and faded coveralls, this guy definitely works on the farm. Maybe he knows something about Jeremiah. Hell, even if he can give me a little bit of dirt, I might be able to help Kane and the deputies track him down. "Who are you?" I growl. "I'm a farmhand," he says quickly, voice trembling. I just work here." I was right. My confidence growing, I get up close to his face, hoping my scowl does all the work in getting him to talk. "Now we can make things real simple," I say. "Tell me what I want to know, and no harm will come to you." "Are you here about the boy?" The farmhand sputters. Well, this is going better than I thought. "Where is he?" I demand, shaking the man a little. I know I ought to calm down, but Ziva's panic-stricken face is seared to the front of my brain. I saw Allan with him earlier," the man says. He's shaking like a leaf. "He had him tied up. Allan put him in his hunting shed, out in the woods." All of the sudden, the image of scared little Jeremiah pops into my head, and before I can help it, my grip on the farmhand loosens. He slumps down the wall of the barn to a scared heap at my feet. I take a step back, breathing deeply and trying to channel my anger into laser-sharp focus. So Allan did kidnap Jeremiah. We were all right. "Where is this shed?" I ask, heart pounding in my chest. "It's out in the woods," the farmhand says. Not thinking, I step forward towards the kid, and he throws his hands over his head. "Please," he shrieks. "Don't hurt me." "I'm not going to hurt you. I just need to know where this shed is," I say, getting impatient. "Out in the woods? Where?" "It's to the north," the farmhand says quickly. "About a mile into the woods to the north. You have to cross a creek to get there. If you hit the parson's cornfield on the other side, then you've gone too far." I shuffle backwards to get a bearing on my surroundings. Kane and I drove in from the south, and I swivel my body to face a northern direction. I'm about to bolt when I remember to turn to the farmhand. "Thank you," I say, and I can hear the gratitude in my voice. "Really. Thank you. Leaving the cops behind, I take off at my fastest sprint into the woods, praying to anyone who will listen that I get to this shed in time. Chapter 22. Daniel. The sound of the crunching leaves beneath my feet is as loud as firecrackers. If I'm trying to be stealthy, I'm not doing a very good job. But I can't slow down. If I slow down, who knows what might happen to Jeremiah? The forest to the north is practically pitch black by the time I cross the tree line, and the farmhand's instructions of go north, cross a stream, aren't really helping me. I need to slow down and get my bearings if I'm going to find Jeremiah. I need to get a hold of myself if I'm going to help Ziva. I stop running, and at first all I can hear is the sound of my ragged breathing. I've been running through the woods like a madman for almost 10 minutes. By my estimation, that should be roughly half a mile in. As the sounds of the woods come back to me, I strain my ears for a babbling brook. Nothing. I must not be close enough, so I keep walking, relying on my old military training to orient my direction. As I walk to the north, I can't help but remember what it felt like for Jeremiah to call me Dad in front of Allan. I think back to that moment in the diner, and I'm surprised to feel my panic grow. I have to find him. Well, Daniel, look at you, I think to myself. Family man after all. I know that I never thought I would be in this position, and I definitely never thought I would want to be. But teaching Jeremiah how to hit a home run, sitting with him and Gran and Ziva at the diner, I want it all. I want more of it. I have to find him. I pick up the pace. Horrible images of what Allan could have done to Jeremiah cross my mind, and I try to shake them off. No use imagining the worst when we don't know any information. The situation already looks bad. I can't help but thinking, he's kidnapped our Jeremiah. What kind of lunatic would do that? Well, the same kind of lunatic who would pay someone to light our barn on fire, that's who. I'm lost in thought and growing more panicked by the minute, when all of a sudden the sound of trickling water stops me in my tracks. I stand rooted to the spot, listening hard. Here's the stream the farmhand mentioned, maybe just a few yards further. In the dark night, it's hard to see anything but shapes. Jeremiah could have walked by me, and I wouldn't be able to tell by anything but the sound of his footsteps. I move quicker but quieter towards the sound of the stream until I can see the water at my feet, rushing down river. It's only a few feet wide, and I leap across it with ease, landing softly on the earth. I pause. Here's where it gets tricky. I don't want Allan to know that I'm coming if he's here. The farmhand said I had to cross a creek to get to the hunting shed, so it should be around here somewhere. I tiptoe through the dead leaves, looking as hard as I can through the darkness. This is impossible. I want to scream. I try to keep my spirits up. I'm closer than I've ever been. It's dark, but I can still see the outlines of trees and shrubs, so a big, looming shed shouldn't be too hard to spot. I crane my neck to see in every direction, hoping against hope. There! My heart races. A little bit further downstream, I can see what looks like a large wooden structure. Carefully, so I don't make too much noise, I creep towards it. Yep, it's a shed all right. Whether or not it's Allan's hunting shed remains to be seen. I pull up close to it and see that it's a rough-hewn little thing, not even any windows. Careful not to make a sound, I pick my way around to find a door. I almost pass it. It's so dark, but the sight of a handle stops me. I put my hand on it and take a deep breath. I don't know what I'm going to find in there. I give it a turn, and of course it's locked. Well, what did you expect, Daniel? I think to myself. No way Allan was just going to leave it unlocked for anyone to waltz in. So much for keeping quiet. I know what I have to do. Taking a few steps backwards, I lift up my foot and bring it down on the handle of the door, hard. It takes a few kicks, but pretty soon I can feel the door giving. With one final stomp of my foot, the door flies inwards, swinging on its hinges. I step inside the shed, and my eyes go immediately to a familiar face in the corner. Jeremiah, passed out, is huddled against the wall in one of the corners of the shed, his legs and hands tied together with rough rope. There's blood on his wrists and excess rope piled by his feet. I can see where the kid has tried to gnaw himself out. "Jeremiah!" I shout and run over to him. Jeremiah's eyes fly open. He looks up at me and his worried face suddenly smiles. I kneel down next to him and wrap him into my arms. "I'm here, buddy," I say softly, relief washing over my body. "I'm here." "I know, Dad," Jeremiah says. "What took you so long?"
Chapter 23. Ziva. Ziva, please sit down. I turn and look at Grandma's face. She's shaking just as badly as I am, but somehow she seems steady. I don't feel steady. "I can't sit down, Grandma. I can't," I mutter desperately and continue pacing around the living room. I don't know what else to do besides pace. Daniel and Cain told us to stay here in case Jeremiah comes back, and that's all that I cling to. Well, that and Daniel's face when he promised me he'd bring my baby home. My baby! I can't stop thinking that over and over again. My mind runs over the same 5 thoughts in an endless circle. Allan took my baby. I need to go out and get my baby. Daniel's going to get my baby. I have to stay here in case my baby comes back. What's happened to my baby? "I can't stay here anymore, Grandma," I say, choking back a sob. "I have to be out there. I have to find him." "We need to listen to Cain. He knows what he's talking about," Grandma says, lowering herself into a chair. "Jeremiah's a smart boy. He might come back here, and we need to be here to protect him if he does." "You can be here, but I need to be out there looking for him," I snap. In the next instant, I'm flooded with regret. How can I be so rude to Grandma when all she's trying to do is comfort me? "I'm sorry," I say immediately. "I'm sorry. I don't know what's gotten into me." "I do," Grandma says quietly. "I know exactly how you feel." This stops me from pacing. I stand and look at my grandmother, the woman who's raised me. I cross the living room and collapse onto the couch, putting my head in my hands. Of course she knows how I feel. "Your parents died when you were just a little girl, so I don't imagine you'd remember much," Grandma says. Her hand finds my shoulder and she squeezes it. "But I remember. I remember that sickening feeling at the back of my throat and at the bottom of my stomach. I remember what it feels like to not know what's going to happen to your baby." I try to keep my tears from pouring out, but I don't think I'll be able to much longer. "Jeremiah's not going to die," I say with my teeth gritted. "He's not." "Not with Daniel out there looking for him," Grandma agrees. She squeezes my shoulder again. "I don't know about you, but I feel much better knowing he's with us on this. That man puts my heart at ease." I want to say that I agree with her, but I can't quite find the right words. I just breathe in deeply and try my hardest to calm down, but I can't calm down. Of course I can't. "Allan took my baby." Oh, here I go again. The same endless thought cycle. I need to go out and get my baby. Daniel's going to get my baby. Daniel. His face swims in front of my eyes, the hard set of his eyebrows and his jaw clenched with determination. He's going to get Jeremiah. He will save Jeremiah. "Jeremiah's not going to die," I repeat. I stand up, shaking Grandma's hand off of my shoulder. I start to pace again. Jeremiah can't die. The tears come out before I even notice and stream down my cheeks. "Jeremiah will not die." She just looks at me helplessly. "I wish you could sit down, Ziva," she says. "What can I do to get you to sit down?" "You can let me go find my baby," I plead. "Please, Grandma, I need to find him." "No," Grandma says. She sounds sterner than I've ever heard her. "I know how you feel, Ziva, but you need to stay here." If you know how I feel, then you know that I need to go, I say desperately. I need to be out there. I need to find him. I don't know where he is. I don't know what's happened to him. I don't know if he's scared or hurt. All I know is that my baby's in the hands of that evil, mean bastard, and I need to go find him and make sure he's all right. I stop pacing long enough to look at her sitting on the couch, not even trying to stop the tears. I see in her eyes that she said some version of this same speech long ago, that she really does know how I feel. Right now, that doesn't make me feel even one little bit better. I know, Ziva, Grandma says. But Cain told us to stay here. And we've got to. If Jeremiah comes busting through our kitchen door, hurt in every way imaginable, then he'll need his mother here to cry to. He'll need his mother to hold him tight. I turn away from her, wiping my eyes. She's right, of course. And I know she's right, even though I can't feel it. I go back to my endless thought cycle. Allan took my baby. I need to go out and get my baby. Daniel's going to get my baby. I have to stay here in case my baby comes back. What has happened to my baby? I'm back to the top of the cycle. Allan took my baby when I really lose it. My limbs stop working, and I crumple to the floor. I bury my face in my hands and cry. It's the only thing I have the strength to do in this moment. And right when I feel like I can't cry any harder, I hear something that sends a shock through my body. I nearly faint as soon as I hear it. I stop crying instantly and lift my face up to listen harder. There's a car coming up the road to our house.
Chapter 24. Daniel. As I sit in the back seat of Sheriff McCauley's car, I stare down at Jeremiah. I have my arms slung around his shoulders, propping him up as he struggles to stay awake. He's been through so much in such a short amount of time. It could have been so much worse. I need to shake that off. It's all over, so there's no sense in thinking about that now. He's safe. That's all that matters. As we pull into the drive, I see Jeremiah's eyes light up. He sits forward and a smile spreads across his face as he sees Ziva and Nan waiting by the front door. We pull closer, and Ziva must see Jeremiah through the back window, because she starts running towards us. Just as Cain puts the car in park, Jeremiah flings the door open and takes off towards her. I step out and watch from the side of the car as Ziva and Nan wrap Jeremiah into the most suffocating of hugs. The three of them mean so much to me. A lump forms in the back of my throat, and tears start to gather in my eyes. Never in my life did I think I could have anything close to this. A real family, so full of love and warmth. Ziva looks up and smiles at me. With tears streaming down her cheeks, she motions for me to come over. Shutting the car door, I walk over. Ziva releases her hold on Jeremiah, but still leaves a hand on his shoulder. She wraps her free arm around my neck and kisses me softly. Pulling back, she lays her forehead against mine. "Thank you for bringing him home safe," she says in a whisper. "Thank you for letting me be a part of your family, Ziva." I wipe at the tears on her face and kiss her on the cheek. She squeezes me tightly before letting go. Nan steps around the two of them to give me a hug. As she pulls away, she places a hand on each side of my face. "You've given my family so much since you got here. Thank you, son." I smile down at her. Little does she know that they are the ones that give me a true purpose in this life. Before I came to this small town and stumbled upon Ziva's flyer, I had nothing. I was searching for something to give me a reason for living again. I'd been discharged from the military, and when I was, I left behind the only family I had ever really known. Lost in thought, I didn't register Cain standing beside me. He claps a hand on my back. "You handled yourself really well out there. I'm glad they've got someone looking out for them." Ziva, overhearing him, turns to give him a quick hug. "Thanks for hurrying over like you did. I wasn't sure who to call or what to do." "Anytime. I think you're in pretty good hands with Daniel around, But if you guys ever need anything, don't hesitate to call. With that, Kane starts back over to his car. Oh, but can't you stay for breakfast? I'll have it ready in no time, says Nan. Sorry, ma'am, I've got loads of paperwork to file about all this. I'll let y'all know as soon as we figure out what we're gonna do with Allan. You shouldn't be hearing from him for a long while. Jeremiah waves goodbye at Kane as he backs up his car and heads down the driveway. I bet I have one hungry boy to feed, don't I? Asks Nan, smiling down at Jeremiah. You have no idea, says Jeremiah with a laugh. He takes off like a bullet to the front door, Ziva chasing him the whole way. Nan and I walk inside to find them at the counter, cracking eggs to make pancake batter. Nan joins them, and I take a seat at the kitchen table. I watch them and realize it's as if nothing had happened at all. They're one big happy family again. I can't imagine how differently this day could have gone if we hadn't found Jeremiah, or if we found him in worse shape than he is. To say Jeremiah is special to me would be a pretty profound understatement. In a way, he feels like my son. With Ziva's blessing, I'd gladly be his father for as long as she'd allow it. It's clear where that scenario puts Ziva and I, and if she was willing, I'd be happy to let it all happen. I'm just so beyond relieved to have things back to normal. None of us would have recovered without Jeremiah here. Ziva steps back so Nan can take over, just long enough to go help Jeremiah get cleaned up. As she leads him out of the kitchen, she pauses beside me to kiss me on the cheek. That small gesture makes my heartbeat quicken ever so slightly. It's a feeling like no other. I've got no idea what I've done to deserve this life, but I'd rather walk over hot coals for eternity than chance losing it even for a second. I get up from my chair and walk over to the stovetop. Smiling at my presence, Nan hands me a frying pan. I start the heat and get to work on the bacon. As it starts to sizzle, I feel Ziva's slender arms wrap around my waist from behind. I look over my shoulder to see her smiling up at me. Jeremiah is behind her, pouring 4 glasses of orange juice at the kitchen table. And for the first time in a long time, I feel at home.
Chapter 25. Ziva. Jeremiah is safe. The thought glows warmly in my mind as I watch Jeremiah wolf down another stack of Nana's apple fritter flapjacks. After everything that's happened, we're all exhausted. We're also all starving. I put away more coffee than flapjacks. Daniel tries to pretend he doesn't want to eat everything in sight, but I notice him eyeing my bacon. Without a word, I give him some. The look of gratitude and care he gives me back is tastier than anything on our plates. I wasn't scared at all, Jeremiah says through a mouthful of blueberry-sauced apple fritter goodness. It's maybe the 50th time since we got him back that he's made a point to tell us this. Course you weren't, Nana says for maybe the 49th time. Not my grandson. Jeremiah retains the big man's swagger through another 2 or 3 mouthfuls. Then he gives the biggest yawn you've ever seen and nearly passes out right at the table. I move to collect him, but Daniel lays a hand on my arm. I got him, he says, so I watch as he scoops up my boy. Then Daniel carries my son up the stairs like Jeremiah was his own. Jeremiah is safe, I think. Daniel saved him. A few hours later, Nana and I sit on the porch. Through the open window behind us, I can hear Daniel's deep, rhythmic breathing. He's inside, asleep on the living room couch where he promptly passed out after tucking in Jeremiah a few hours ago. Nana and I just hold hands and watch as the sun and the flies dance across the front lawn. My coffee has gone stone cold, but I don't care. The wind shakes a loose plank somewhere on the stable. The banging reminds me how much work there is to be done on the farm, but I don't care about that either. It can wait for a day. Today is about winding down. I look at my property and realize my farm might be safe now too. I think of Diva, my favorite Arabian. If Sheriff McCauley does his job, Diva and I will never have our morning feedings ambushed by that jerk Allan ever again. As if my thoughts were magic, Sheriff McCauley's car suddenly comes pulling up to the house. He's driving his police car this time. When he steps out, I note he's in uniform too. Under his wide-brimmed sheriff's hat, his face is serious. My chest tightens as I stand up to meet him. Nana stands beside me. She tries to take my hand, but I cross my arms. I need to brace myself in case this is bad news. Kane strides over, rests his hands on the gear weighing down his belt. Ziva, ma'am, I wanted to be the one to tell you. Oh no, I think. Then Kane's eyes light up and a devilish smile breaks out across his weathered face. That creep Allan Lanson and his cockroach buddies have all been arrested. He lets out a sharp laugh. My guess is that they're all going to spend a good bit of the foreseeable future in jail. I let out a great big sigh, and my shoulders drop from up around my ears. Nana grabs for my hand again. This time I am happy to let her take it. Thank you, Kane. Thank you so much, Nana says, expressing my own sentiments. Thank Daniel. Kane grins at me. Your man's the real hero? I give him a smile I hope is appropriately demure. Inside, I feel a surge of electricity at the words, your man. A new thought joins the others now. Daniel is mine. Then I realize the sheriff is saying something else to me. Sorry, what was that? I asked if you'd gotten any sleep yet. Guess that's my answer. I'll put her straight to bed, Nana assures him. We were just waiting for the final word. All right then. Kane turns back toward his car, then almost immediately spins on his heels to face us. He tips his sheriff's hat back a bit with one finger. By the way, he says, here's something that might make your dreams even sweeter. Allan likes to talk a big game, but there's a reason he was desperate for your land. He's mismanaged his money so bad, he's nearly broke. Now he's got some pretty hefty legal fees coming his way. I imagine he'll be trying to short sell his land just to get his paws on some quick cash. Someone could probably snatch it up at a pretty good discount if they wanted. Kane winks at me, as if he wasn't being on the nose enough already. I walk over and wrap him up in a hug. Thanks, I whisper, gripping him tightly. But I'm happy with what I have. Yeah, I imagine so, he whispers back. I pull out of the hug to look at him, and he gently nods his chin back toward the house. Daniel is awake and standing in the doorway. He's rumpled from his nap. His hair is disheveled. It looks good on him, of course. Kane returns to his car and drives off. I can't stop looking at Daniel. He starts to wave at me, but a yawn overtakes him. The hand that was going to wave covers his mouth instead. It's sweet and kinda sexy in a silly way. I have to smile. It's a smile that takes over my whole face, then my whole body. Allan in jail. Jeremiah is safe. Daniel saved him. Daniel is mine. The thoughts swirl in my mind until they coalesce into one singular beautiful realization. I am absolutely and completely happy. Chapter 26. Ziva. Over the next few days, we fall into a rhythm. Daniel and I wake up early beside one another, still naked from the night before. We kiss. We quickly make love again. Then he sneaks to his room to be there when Jeremiah wakes up. We've agreed to not hit Jeremiah with too much too quickly, though as Nana keeps saying, you think you're really fooling that boy? I start to wonder, would Jeremiah be happy with Daniel in our life? It's only been days, but the connection they have seems so strong, like he's always been here. Wouldn't it be nice if he never left? What if, no, Ziva, that kind of thinking just leads to hurt. But what if? Tending to the farm doesn't even feel like work anymore. It's not just that Daniel helps out. It's that having him here makes everything feel easier. The bales of hay feel lighter. The repairs aren't as exhausting. Hell, it's becoming fun again. Jesus, I'm so happy. 3 days after Jeremiah's rescue, we're nearly done mending that damn fence. The three of us are working on the final slats together. We're laughing and goofing off more than working. But so what? "Tea's ready," Nana shouts from the house. She's made sweet tea. It's been years since she's made sweet tea. I think it reminds her too much of Pop Pop. I wonder what possessed her to brew it today. Could the happiness I'm feeling be contagious? "Come on, you two," I say, standing up. "Let's take a break." "Oh, we're almost finished," Jeremiah protests. "Nana's made sweet tea," I tell him. Jeremiah looks to Daniel for help. Daniel looks up at me, squinting in the sun. "You go ahead. We'll be done with this in a sec. You deserve a break." Jeremiah's eyes brighten, and he looks at me to see what I'll do. "I'll bring some out to you two," I concede, and head back to the house. When I get to the kitchen, Nana's already got glasses poured for us. She and I do a corny cheers and clink glasses. Then I take a deep swallow of sweet tea. It's as delicious as ever. I enjoy the feel of the coolness creeping through my body. Delightful goosebumps spread across my espresso skin. The sugar gives me an immediate rush. "Oh, man," I declare. Nana takes her own sip and lets out a satisfied sigh. Takes me back." "Summers with Pop Pop," I say without thinking. Nana looks at me. I didn't mean to mention him, but there's no anger or sadness in her eyes. Instead, her eyes sparkle ever so gently. "You know," she says, "he used to say to me, 'This farm ain't really about the farming, it's about the family.' He used to say that all the time. I think he was right, and there hasn't really been a feeling of family around here, not for a long time. But it's starting to feel that way again. Don't you think?" I meet her gaze. I've been thinking the exact same thing, but I'm too scared to admit it out loud. Instead, I look out the window, where I can see Daniel helping Jeremiah with his hammer technique. He demonstrates holding it closer to the hammer head to get the nail started, then lowering the grip to forcefully drive the nail in. Jeremiah gives it a try. He beams as he drives the nail in quickly. He and Daniel high-five, laughing. "I don't want to set Jeremiah up for disappointment," I mutter. "Jeremiah, huh? Fine, or me. I can't get hurt again. I understand, but I'm not stupid or blind. I see how happy you and Jeremiah are with him here, and I see how happy Daniel seems too." Jeremiah drives another nail into the fence with forceful precision. He and Daniel throw up their arms and cheer. I can hear them even way up here in the house. "Don't you all deserve that happiness?" Nan asks. "After all you've been through? All he went through in the war?" Then she adds, "After all I've had to put up with, like you moping about the house all the time?" She grins and pops me on the behind, then steps away to pour more sweet tea. I continue to watch Jeremiah and Daniel. They've started wrestling, and for the moment, Jeremiah seems to have Daniel pinned. Daniel pretends to struggle in vain. What if we could make it work? But what if he hurts me? I ask myself. Only the thought feels hollow. It's only been a few days, but everything I feel about Daniel tells me he couldn't do that, wouldn't do that. There is nothing callous, cruel, or dishonest about him. Nana hands me 2 more cold, sweaty glasses of sweet tea. I step outside to bring them to my men. My men? Did I really just think that? Maybe I am in too deep to turn back now. Daniel's gotten the upper hand in their wrestling match. He throws Jeremiah over one shoulder, much to Jeremiah's delight. Jeremiah sees me and waves excitedly. I acknowledge him by raising one of the glasses of sweet tea. I'm halfway between the house and them when the messenger truck pulls into the yard, its brakes grinding as it halts. The awful metal-on-metal sound strikes me in my core. I go goosebumpy again. Not because of cold this time. It's because, in my experience, messengers almost always come bearing bad news.
Chapter 27. Daniel, messing around in the yard with Jeremiah feels like the best way to celebrate a successful day. It feels especially good because I can sense Ziva's gaze on us. During our wrestling match, I managed to grab Jeremiah and throw him over my shoulder. I'm making my victory lap around the yard when I feel his small body tense. I gently flip him back over. "You okay, little man?" I ask. He doesn't respond, just watches as a mail truck pulls into the yard. Time seems to slow as the door of the truck swings open and a man jumps out, raising his hand. "Howdy, folks, I'm looking for a Daniel." "That's me. Looks important. Thought I'd drop it off before we close for the day." I cross the distance to him and he hands me an envelope. "Thanks." When I glance up, it seems as though everyone is watching me. Ziva, with her brow furrowed, Jeremiah, curious, but distant. I look down at the letter, my heart speeding up as I brush across the stamp. "What is it?" Jeremiah asks. "I don't know." I flip it over. Looks to be from a lawyer or something. "Jer, come over here and drink your tea." There's an edge in Ziva's voice. I think about shoving it in my pocket to open later, but I need to know what it is. I tear it open. "Dear Mister, I'm all over the place as I read through it. Uncle Jeb, the ranch in Montana. When I eventually reach the end, I release a long sigh. My first emotion is a giant wave of grief for Uncle Jeb. He wasn't always the easiest man to get along with, but he had taught me a lot. I owe my work ethic and dedication to that man. I think of all the days I spent on the ranch and how much Uncle Jeb loved it. I can't believe he left it to me. I feel lightheaded at the thought of owning all that incredible land and the responsibility I have. Reality begins to set in when I hear Ziva's voice break into my thoughts. "Daniel? Daniel, are you okay?" I quickly fold up the letter. I know what it'll mean when I tell her. "Yeah, just some bad news. It's a letter from my Uncle Jeb's attorney. He died." Her eyes soften with sympathy. "Oh my God, Daniel. I'm so sorry. You talked about him. I know how much he meant to you." She squeezes my shoulder and we stand quietly, staring out at the pastures. "There's more," I say hesitantly after a while. "He left me his ranch in Montana." It's suddenly as though the air has dropped several degrees in temperature. Ziva is completely still, body tense, waiting. "Oh?" "It's not that far away," I continue hurriedly. "You can visit, you and Jeremiah and Grandma." "Right," she says slowly. "So, you're going?" "I have to." I take her hand, silently begging her to understand. As I'm saying it, I realize that it's true. I do have to go. I owe it to Uncle Jeb, and I owe it to myself. The ranch is such an important part of who I am. I'm sorry, Ziva. "It's okay," she replies without meeting my eyes. "I understand." Jeremiah skips back over. "What was the letter about?" Ziva pats his head affectionately. Well, Daniel has had some sad news, baby. His uncle passed away and now he's going to go live on a ranch in Montana." "Daniel's leaving?" His eyes flick between me and Ziva, and I feel an intense rush of guilt and sadness. "Yeah. I'm sorry, Jer," I say quietly. "You can come visit whenever you want to, though, right? It'll be so much fun." "Yeah." He's looking at the ground, kicking around a stone with his shoe. Suddenly he ducks away, rushing towards the barn. Ziva sighs. "He'll be fine," she assures me. She pauses as though wanting to say something, and then she begins to turn away. Again, "I'm sorry about your uncle." I watch her leave with a vast sense of loss. It's ironic. If I'd received this letter just a few weeks ago, it would have been like a dream come true. The ranch's Montana is everything I ever wanted. At least before I met Ziva, and Jeremiah, and Grandma. It was like I walked into the perfect, pre-built family. I never thought I'd be happy again. But these past few weeks, I felt more like myself than I have in months. Years, even. At the same time, I know I have to go. There's unfinished business, and it's my responsibility. I look back at the house, where I see Ziva's silhouette in the kitchen window. I sure hope the ranch is worth losing all this. I stand alone in the yard as the shadows grow longer, grieving not only for Uncle Jeb, but for the life I've built here.
I hope you're enjoying this audiobook by Vixavon. If you want to keep hearing more audiobooks, then please hit that subscribe button and like the video. It may seem insignificant, but the more people that subscribe, the easier it is to produce more audiobooks in the future. So please help us out and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for listening, and now back to your book.
Chapter 28. Ziva. Are you okay, love? Grandma watches me with a concerned look as I put the dishes away, with a touch too much aggression. Of course I am. I didn't expect he'd stay here forever, Gramps. Just kind of annoyed that I'll have to find someone new to help out around here. Okay, she concedes with a sigh. If that's all you're worried about, I continue raging around the kitchen. It sure has been nice having a man around, Grandma says with a chuckle. We don't need a man. I'm an independent woman. I know I'm being childish, but I have a lot of emotion and nowhere to direct it. Oh, honey, I know you are. But men are good for some things. When I glance over at her, she has a cheeky grin on her face. Oh, God, I cover my face, feeling the heat in my cheeks. Damn those thin walls. I'm going to check if he needs anything. Oh, okay, love. Take your time. I hurry out of the kitchen, holding on to whatever scraps of dignity I have left. I pause by Daniel's door and listen to him packing. With every fiber of my being, I suppress the desire to push the door open and ask him not to leave. Beg him if it comes to that. But it's partly my pride that stops me. We were doing just fine before Daniel turned up, and we'll be just fine without him. I will be fine. I don't need him. Well, maybe except for the screwing. Oh, the screwing. I force my mind to focus. The other reason is that I totally get it. I understand why he needs to go, and why I can't ask him to stay. If I was in his position, I would do the same thing. Family comes first, at the end of the day. It feels like he's been here forever. Like I can't even remember a time before Daniel. And I guess I just didn't think that he would be leaving quite so soon. Or ever. The door swings open and I'm caught. Hey, he says softly. Hi, I reply. I was just coming by to check if there's anything you need. I fight to keep the emotion out of my voice. I'm good. We look away from each other, at a loss for words. Actually, Daniel says quietly, there is something I need. He pulls me into his room, pressing my back against the wall as he kisses me fiercely. My resolve crumbles as my body reacts to him. For the briefest moment, I question it. Daniel? But then his mouth is on my neck, and his hands are grasping at my clothes, and I go willingly with him, wherever he is going. There's a strange kind of urgency and hunger to the love-making. It's nothing like any of the other times. There's no lying in each other's arms at the end, or sweet words and caresses. It's fast and mutually satisfying. We know each other's bodies perfectly. When it's over, I pull my clothes on quickly, trying not to let the waves of sadness overflow. Ziva, he whispers as I reach for the door handle to leave. I turn to look at him, spread across the bed in all his glory, and I bite my tongue. Bye, Daniel, I whisper as the door closes behind me. Less than an hour later, his truck is packed, and his room is empty. Jeremiah, Grandma, and I stand on the porch. I'll see you, Jer, he says, offering a fist bump. To everyone's surprise, Jeremiah latches onto Daniel's waist for a few moments. See ya, he eventually responds. You'll come visit? Yeah. Bye, Grandma, Thanks for everything. Bet I'll never meet a better cook. Daniel gives her a wink and gentle squeeze, kissing her powdery soft cheek. You take care of yourself, young man. I will. When he turns to me, I can't take the force of the emotion anymore. While he goes in for a hug, I offer him my hand, which he shakes with a hurt and confused look. We appreciate all the work you've done here, Daniel. Good luck with the new ranch. My voice sounds so hard and cold, and I hate it, but the alternative is to fall apart. Thanks, Ziva. Good luck to you too. He smiles sadly and steps off the porch to his truck. The truck roars into life and he waves. We stand silently as the truck weaves up the road and out of sight. I have to force myself to stay. Watching Daniel drive away is the hardest thing I've had to do. What I want to do is run away to the barn, jump on Diva, and disappear into the hills. I want to be alone and grieve. I realize that it's not the first time I've been in this position. Watching Jeremiah's dad leave had been awful too. Somehow, though, this feels worse. Why does it seem like men always end up leaving me? Jeremiah sniffs. I meet Grandma's eyes and I hate how disappointed she looks. It's the dust, Jer says, rubbing his eyes. I pull him to my chest and inhale his sweet scent. I know, baby. I know.
Chapter 29. Daniel. I wave one final time as I pull the door of the truck shut behind me. In my rearview mirror, all three of them are perfectly framed. My heart physically aches. The engine turns over and the truck lurches out of the yard. It takes all my willpower not to keep looking back. Before long, the house disappears and it's nothing but open road. I lose count of the number of times I want to turn around and drive back to her, to tell her that it was a mistake, and home is wherever she is. But somehow, I don't. Somehow, I keep my foot on the gas, and I just keep driving. It's already dark by the time I pull into Uncle Jeb's ranch. I find the key to the house under a pot and begin to unload my few belongings. I've just settled into Jeb's old, comfy armchair when the porch bell rings. "Hello?" I call. "Daniel, honey, that you?" I recognize the voice of Mrs. Hancock, Jeb's closest neighbor. "Oh, come on in, Mrs. Hancock." I get to my feet to greet her. When she comes around the corner, she greets me with a tight hug. "Oh, honey, I'm so glad you're here now. It's been real quiet out here." There's a whimper as Patch, Jeb's dog, appears out of the darkness. "I've been taking care of Patch until you got here. Poor old girl really misses the old man." I crouch down and Patch shyly sniffs my hand. "Remember me, old girl? Lord, it's been a few years since you were here, Daniel." Mrs. Hancock gives me an appraising look. "You grew up." I chuckle, feeling slightly uncomfortable with the slightly hungry eyes she gives me. "You look well," I say in response. "How are things out here?" "Same as always, Daniel. We were all real sorry to hear about Jeb. He was a good man, a vital part of our community. Not the same without him." "Yeah, he sure was a good man. I heard that you were in the military?" I got out a few weeks back." "Oh, really?" I suddenly remember Mrs. Hancock has quite the reputation as the local gossip. "And so, where have you been since then?" I can't help but chuckle. "I was working as a ranch hand out in Texas." "Right." She stares at me with her large, curious eyes. "I know a few people out there." I fake a yawn. "Well, it's been a long day, ma'am. I'd better get settled for the night." As though she hasn't heard me, Mrs. Hancock continues. "You're not married, are you, Daniel?" "No," I say, dreading the direction that this conversation is going. "Well, I have a lovely niece. I must introduce you one of these days. You're not as young as you used to be, honey. You really should think about settling down soon." "Night, Mrs. Hancock," I say firmly. "Thanks for bringing Patch by." "All right." She glances around the room one last time. "I'm sure I'll see you real soon, Daniel." Welcome home. She waves her hand as she makes for the door. I give a big sigh of relief as I hear her footsteps slowly melt into the sounds of the night. God, I murmur to Patch. I'm so sorry you had to live with that, Patch. She gently butts my hand with her head, giving me sad eyes. Yeah, tell me about it. I laugh gently before sinking back into the chair. Patch settles down with her head on my foot. It feels good to be here on one hand. On the other, I feel strangely homesick, which is weird. I didn't know that you could be homesick for people. I imagine what everyone would be doing right now. I can imagine Jeremiah and Ziva hunched over a savage game of Monopoly. I see Grandma sitting in her favorite armchair, quietly watching over everyone with her half-finished knitting lying across her lap. In my state of exhaustion, the lines between reality and dream begin to blur. All right, Jer. Time for bed. Ziva stands up, holding out her hand. You too, Grams. She laughs as Grandma opens her eyes suddenly. I wasn't sleeping, Grandma exclaims. We have a long day tomorrow. As she leads Jeremiah to bed, she glances over her shoulder and gives me a warm, beckoning smile. I know I have to wait approximately 45 minutes before I can slip into Ziva's room and take her into my arms. My body is electric with anticipation. I'm woken up by a sharp bark. Whoa, what is it, Patch? I murmur sleepily. She stands at the window staring out into the darkness. It's just the wind, making the windows shudder in their frames. Come on, let's go to bed. I crawl under the covers of Uncle Jeb's old bed, and it smells a little musty. I'm so tired that I can't be bothered to do anything. I feel Patch jump onto the edge of the bed, and I'm grateful for the warmth and company she provides. When I close my eyes, I find myself hoping to finish the dream. I want to see them again.
Chapter 30. Ziva. Was my bed always this big? I spent the first night since he left tossing and turning. In my dreams, I see trucks driving away. Always driving away. In between those dreams, I dream of him. Shoveling horse crap, feeding the chickens, playing with Jeremiah. Making love, his body, shining with sweat as it moves like a perfect machine. I groan, half asleep, his rough yet gentle hands caressing my body. The sound of his voice. When I finally give up on getting any decent sleep at around 4 a.m., I venture into the kitchen to make some coffee. My mind is swirling, and my body is on edge. I force myself to relax as I put the water on to boil. I knock on Grandma's door, knowing she'll already be awake. Morning. Would you like some coffee, Grams? I'm making. She smiles. I'd love some. You're up early. Everything okay? Yeah, just couldn't sleep. Although I leave the sentence unfinished. I know Grams doesn't need any further explanation. Yeah, must be the wind. I nod. Okay, I'll bring that coffee in a minute. I walk out onto the porch where I stretch. I like this time of day. It's so quiet, so calm. Most of the world is still sleeping and it's just me. After I've delivered the coffee to Grams, I make my way back to the porch where I sit on the old swing, tucking my legs up against my chest. There's a little chill in the air which makes me excited for fall. I stare out at the barn as light slowly breaks over the ranch. It's like I'm seeing everything with new eyes. I can't believe how much better everything looks since Daniel started working here. It used to be a sad, run-down ranch. The barn has had a coat of paint, and the old truck that broke down a few years back has been disposed of. You can see Grandma's garden beds, brimming with blooms. I smile contentedly. It finally looks like something I can be proud of. I don't know how long it will last, like all good things. I can't help but wonder if it's me. Am I the reason that all the men I love leave? First Jeremiah's dad, and now Daniel. I don't want to believe it, but it seems like the common factor. Love. I'm surprised the word comes so easily to me when I think of Daniel. In just a few weeks, I'd fallen in love with him. I slap a hand to my forehead. I'm an idiot. I probably pushed him away with my intensity. A tear slides down my cheek, closely followed by another. Maybe I'm just meant to be alone forever. It's not like I can really complain. I have Jer, I have Grams, and I have the ranch. What more could I need? Mom? Jeremiah pushes open the door and catches sight of my face. Why are you crying? I beckon him over and he snuggles into my chest. He doesn't quite fit in the same way he used to. It's nothing, baby. Don't worry about me. You miss Daniel? He says, and I give a little laugh. The boy never misses a beat. Even though Daniel and I always did our best to hide our relationship, our chemistry was kind of obvious. Jeremiah isn't a kid anymore. I guess I should stop treating him like one. Yeah, baby, I do. He looks up at me with his big, trusting brown eyes. His father's eyes. That makes me sad, too. I miss him, too. We sit together for several minutes. I don't like it when you're sad, Mom. It makes me kind of mad that he made you sad. Why did he leave? Why does everyone leave? My heart breaks. It makes me realize that I'm not the only one that men keep driving away from. And that makes me angry. My son shouldn't feel like that. Oh, baby. It's complicated. If he doesn't go to the ranch in Montana, who else is going to take care of it? He can't stay here and work for me when he could have his own land. I guess. Still, he pauses. We're going to be okay, Mom. You're always going to have me. I'm going to take care of you, okay? You don't have to worry. My heart swells with love for him. Thank you, Jer. I love you, you know that? I know. I hug him tighter, but the tears still keeping rolling down my cheeks. I still want more. I still want Daniel. I curse at my stupidity for wanting a man who walked away without a second glance. Jeremiah will always be enough. But is it wrong to want more on top of that?
Chapter 31. Daniel. I'm cleaning out the barn when the realization hits me like a blow to the chest. Here I am, shoveling crap hundreds of miles away from the person I want to be shoveling crap with. And it's no fun alone. I love this ranch. I thought I loved this ranch more than anything. But as it turns out, not more than I love Ziva. I love her. I pause, letting the weight of the words sink into me. I love her, I say out loud, testing the phrase on my tongue. A cow moves in response. I love her. I try a tiny bit louder. I love her! I yell at the wide blue sky. Patch yelps. Patch, I love her! I drop the shovel and bounce towards Patch, who willingly leaps into the game. We dance around the yard, me yelling about love, Patch bounding around yipping and barking at me. I laugh, giddy with excitement. Patch, I say breathlessly. What am I going to do? Patch gives me a sideways look. I know. What am I doing? Talking to a dog and a cow? I should be driving back to Texas, Patch. I pause to catch a breath. I'm going to go. I'm going to tell her. Patch, I'm going to ask her to marry me. Patch barks again. Well, damn. The voice behind me makes me stop in my tracks. I turn around to find a beautiful woman trotting towards me on a massive black horse. You've only been here 3 days and you've already lost your mind. I immediately recognize her sarcastic tone. Nicole? She inclines her head with a smile. The one and only. A huge grin spreads across my face as my oldest friend swings off her horse and slaps me on the back. As I live and breathe, what the heck are you doing here? Ha! Looking for you, Danny boy. I heard a rumor that there was a sexy military man around. Who else would it be? I hug her. Oh man, Nick, I haven't seen you in years. Yeah, not since you slacked off to the military, you freak. We laugh. So who are you in love with? Apparently that cow knows more about your private life than your oldest friend. I blush intensely. Nicole probably knows better than anyone what a big deal this is. Jesus, Daniel, are you blushing? Pour me a beer and prepare to talk. She leads her horse into the stable, and then we go into the house. Man, I never thought I'd see the day you'd be settling down. She stares at me with an amused look. You really do love her, don't you? More than anything, I admit softly. And her kid, Jeremiah. Oh my God, Nick, he's so smart and funny. And there's Grandma. I'm aware that I'm gushing, but I just can't stop. When I look up, Nicole stares at me with a dopey smile. Then what the hell are you waiting for, you idiot? Go get this girl! I sigh, looking around. But the ranch, Nick, you know how much it means to me. This place, it's home. She smiles sympathetically. Home can be a person too, Daniel. Someone to keep you warm at night and make you laugh. Sounds like you have everything you need to be happy. Don't let that go. Well, damn, I say with a dry chuckle, running my hand through my tousled hair. Guess I gotta go ring shopping. Will you help me pick out a ring? Her eyes sparkle. I thought you'd never ask. We laugh and chat all the way into town, catching up on several years. I look across at Nicole and I see the crinkle lines around her eyes from laughter, her skin, tan from years in the sun. She's so happy and I want that for her. I want that for myself too. So, what's your advice for a happy marriage? I ask her. You must be pretty good at it since you and Katie have been together forever. Her face lights up, as it always has when she talks about the love of her life. Learn to forgive quickly and just laugh. Life is ridiculous, so laugh at it. Great lovemaking also helps, like... Wow. She grins, shooting me a wink. I grin back. Ha! Judging by that smile on your face, I can see there's nothing missing in your bed life. God, Danny, I can't wait to meet this girl. I'll be your best man, right? She elbows me. Psh, there's no one I'd rather have. When we arrive at the jeweler, I find it surprisingly easy to pick out a ring for Ziva. Something that symbolizes her strength and independence, and yet also hope and second chances. On a whim, I also choose a more masculine ring for Jeremiah, knowing that he's a huge part of this decision. She'll love it, Nick says, squeezing my shoulder. Now go. I'll be waiting for the invitation. I run to my truck where Patch waits, her head sticking out the window. Come on, Patch. I murmur softly. Let's go home. On the long drive back, I question everything. I desperately hope that she can find it in her heart to forgive me for walking away in the first place. I look across at the ring box beside my leg, and my heart begins to race. Please may she feel the same way.
Chapter 32. Ziva. I run the comb through Diva's mane, and she neighs appreciatively. You're a beautiful girl, I murmur, brushing her down. I spend a lot of time in the barn these days. Anything to avoid thinking, because thinking always leads to... I sigh. In the distance, I hear a truck pulling in and wonder vaguely whether it's another package being delivered. I don't think too much of it, though, until I hear voices. When I hear Jeremiah's no-nonsense tone, my heart stops. Mom, he rushes into the barn, panting slightly. Jer, what is it? Everything okay? Yeah, no, maybe... He pauses, looking indecisive. Mom? What is it, Jeremiah? I'm starting to panic. Well, it's... Daniel, he's back. And I wasn't sure if I should just let him in here. After he left and you've been sad and... Daniel? I echo, suddenly feeling incredibly lightheaded. What the... Should I tell him to leave? Jeremiah looks ready to fight, and it warms my heart that he's so quick to want to protect me. It's okay, baby. I'll see him. I'll just wash up. I turn and quickly walk over to the tap, where I begin to spray my boots down, while silently willing my heart and mind to slow so that I can make sense of this. God, I don't even know if I can handle seeing him after everything. What does he want? Why is he here? Does he not realize what this means? I want to have hope. Like, what if he's here because he loves me? Maybe he couldn't stand to be away. Maybe it hurt him as much as it hurt me. Alternatively, I don't think I could handle it if I was wrong. I couldn't take it if he walked away again. Ziva. His deep voice vibrates through the very core of my body. I stand up straight, turning towards him. Daniel, I say, trying to keep my tone light and friendly. We didn't expect to see you back here so soon. Neither did I, he says with his beautiful smile. What can I do for you? I dry my hands and step towards him. It's pretty simple, really. Oh, yeah? His presence is intoxicating. His scent so raw, so masculine and inviting. You could make me very happy. I raise an eyebrow, unsure where this conversation is going. Ziva, I'm so sorry I left. Watching the words come out of his mouth makes me feel weak, like I need to sit down. The crushing sadness and disappointment is still so real. Daniel, how can I tell him how much it hurt? Hear me out. When I came here, I didn't know what I was looking for. Then I met you and Jeremiah and Grandma. The more time I spend here, the more I feel like this is where I'm meant to be. No, I find myself saying. I can't do this, Daniel. He suddenly looks unsure. But Ziva, I can't. I can't keep watching you walk away. I don't think my heart can take it. So let's just be adults about this. Walk away? That's exactly what I'm trying to tell you, Ziva. I don't want to walk away ever again. I'm so sorry it took me so long to see it, but I am completely in love with you. You are the most incredible woman I have ever met. The strongest, sexiest, and downright most impressive. I don't ever want to walk away. In fact, I want to be with you forever. Please, please just say that you feel the same. I love you, Ziva. I stare at him for what feels like hours. I'm trying to grasp the meaning of what he's saying. He loves me. Me? As I'm trying to make sense of things, he pulls something out of his pocket. Oh my God. Then he's going down on one knee. Daniel, I whisper. I realize that I'm crying. I promise, Ziva, you won't be able to get rid of me. You'll probably even be trying to get rid of me soon. But you'll never succeed. Please make me the happiest man in the world. I'm laughing and I'm crying, and I'm kind of bewildered, but I'm certain about one thing. Yes, Daniel, yes. Relief and happiness sweep across his face as he jumps to his feet and captures me in his arms. He kisses me long and hard, and I never want it to end. I feel giddy as I realize that it doesn't have to end. When we break apart, I see Jeremiah in the doorway of the barn, and my heart contracts. It's not just my life I'm tying to Daniel's. Suddenly he grins. Daniel already asked me. He flashes his hand where a simple silver ring sits. I turn back to Daniel, who's grinning. Hey, I know it's the whole package. And that's exactly what I want. I kiss him again while Jeremiah hoots and cheers loudly in the background. I even hear Grandma shouting her congratulations from the porch. Welcome home, I whisper softly in Daniel's ear, and he kisses me even harder. Chapter 33. Ziva. I can't stop looking at myself in the mirror, gazing at the glowing bride looking back at me. Never thought I'd see this day. I brush down the dress. It's Grandma's dress with a touch of tailoring and modernizing. It fits me like a glove, and I've never felt so feminine. There's a knock on the door. Can we come in? Grandma pushes it open, followed by Jeremiah, whose mouth falls open at the sight of me. Mom, is that you? I laugh. Hey, watch yourself, young man. I don't think I've ever seen you wear anything but jeans. I don't remember the last time I did, I reply with a sad sigh. You look absolutely stunning, Graham says, tucking a wayward strand of hair behind my ear. That man downstairs is damn lucky, if you ask me. Speaking of Jeremiah, could you go make sure he's ready? Tell him we'll be down in a few minutes. Jeremiah scampers off. Grams, I can't believe this is happening. When I meet her eyes, they're misty with tears. No one deserves this more than you, honey. You found yourself a good one. She pulls an old photograph from her pocket. Who does this look like? I take it and find myself looking into what seems to be another mirror. We look like twins, I murmur with a smile. Your grandpops and I had a long and happy marriage, Ziva. I have no doubt that you will too. Now you better get down there and marry that man. The wedding is absolute perfection. We dance, we laugh, and we eat. The best thing of all is that Daniel can barely keep his eyes off me the entire night. He holds my hand, kisses me often, and tells me that I'm breathtaking so many times that I almost stop believing him. As the night ends, Daniel pulls me into a quiet corner. I can't wait to have you all to myself. His eyes are dark with desire. I chuckle softly. I made him wait until the wedding night before we could make love again. I have to be honest. It was not easy. Have patience, husband. I kiss his nose and he groans. That's it. I'm tired of waiting. He scoops me into his arms and I shriek as we flee the wedding. Behind us, there are yells and cheers. Not a subtle exit, I tell him with a laugh. There's nothing subtle about me. He carries me into the house and up the stairs. Someone has laid rose petals all over the bed. He gently places me on the bed. Patch, who follows Daniel like a shadow, whines when Daniel closes the door. Okay, Patch, not tonight. Tonight you sleep outside. I laugh. Be careful with the dress, I say breathlessly, as he ravenously begins to undress me. It's a beautiful dress, but I really need to see what's underneath it. Sorry to interrupt again. I know no one likes missing out on a spicy grand finale, but unfortunately this platform won't allow us to air what's about to happen next. To make up for this, we're offering a 40% discount on the full, unabridged version of this audiobook when you go to vixavon.com and apply code VIXA40 at checkout. Thank you for listening to Vixavon Romance.